What's up, everyone?
Hello.
I'm pretty
Hello.
sure we're live. This is my first time. I think, well, we did in Tennessee, but this is my first time going live without paying for StreamYard. You could see the duck in the corner, so I'm not paying for it. I'm not doing the whole $30 or $35 a month. I'm going to stream maybe once a month. So I'm not going to pay to use StreamYard just to get some clips or have 6 people, which we don't even have. So it makes sense. But I think we're live. I'm pretty sure we're good. It says we're live. We got some people in here, 15 people watching, which is super cool. But Joe, Vinicio, Nikki, we got a new series we're starting. It is called Let's Get Real. And we're going to pick different topics, a ton of different topics. We'll probably go live about once every 3 weeks, once every month, every Tuesday in that span, I should say. And we'll be talking about things as far as family, anxiety, pain, loss, grief, anger, insecurities, just different topics. And then we'll pick one movie that we could figure out how it relates to our topic, and we'll be discussing it, breaking it down. We'll probably go live in between 2.5 to 3 hours every single stream. No longer than 3 hours. We want to keep it under that. I appreciate anyone who is here, who watches, moderators, things like that. Like I said, it's been a while, but I want to do things differently, and I was telling them that too. I want to stay away from the drama of things. I don't care about he said, she said. I don't want to get into the artwork sucks on this. Did you see that? The rumors. I don't care. I don't care about it. This is more of a not physical media related to begin with. This is more about movies and how it ties to our life and how depression ties to our life. Now, this isn't a woe is me or a pity party kind of stream either. It's not what any of the 4 of us are looking for, but we want to talk about something that's serious, something that people struggle with, and how it relates to our life and how it relates to the movie The Way Back. So if you haven't seen it, unfortunately, you're missing out. If you have seen it, it's great because you can talk about it. So, but with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my panel. So, Joe, I'm going to let you go ahead and talk. I noticed that StreamYard changed things. Now it's rows of 3 instead of 4, so now I got to go down. But go ahead and talk about yourself, Joe, and anybody that doesn't know you, which everybody here knows. Yeah.
If anybody doesn't know me, I'm Joe. Used to do the Joe Martinez Joe show on YouTube. Don't really do YouTube that much anymore, but I'm on Instagram as well. Same, So to the next. I'm
Nikki,
quick and simple.
go ahead and tell everyone about yourself, who you are, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada.
I'm just a movie lover, mother, grandmother, wife. Living my life, doing my thing, working, paying the bills.
Awesome. Appreciate you being here. And then Vinicio, how about yourself, man?
Yes, everybody that is watching, but that's part of the movie community, they probably know me as the Horror Cholo. But I have now graduated to the Urban Disciple, trying to do things a little bit different. But I'm happy to be here, happy to still be talking about movies, so it's pretty cool.
Awesome. And the way this actually came to be, oh geez, I didn't want to go full screen, was I had reached out to Joe and Nikki a while back, and I was like, I'd love to start something with the 3 of you. I miss doing the what it means to us that I did a couple of episodes on my channel where we dive deep into one movie and talk about it. I miss doing that. And then I really wanted to do something. I watch podcasts, like some of my favorite ones are I think it's called The Real Ones, with John Bernthal. And then I was like, oh, wait, I almost stole the name, but it wasn't intentional. But John Bernthal, he did one with Shia LaBeouf, and it was one of the best episodes I've ever seen in a podcast. I think it was so real and heartfelt, and he talked about a lot of stuff. So I wanted to do something like that, almost like a podcast type of thing. I always wanted to, I like creating, I like doing stuff like that, but it's been so long. And then I always got caught up in the negativity of things and the trolls and stuff like that. I've made mistakes. I've done things. I've had people in the chat come in and call it out, but I want to stay away from stuff like that. If they're going to come in here, it's okay. I just block them, whatever, and move on. So that's something I really want to work on, is doing stuff like that, doing things the right way, staying away from the BS of it. But with that being said, I'll go ahead and I'll catch up on who's in the chat. I don't know the structure of things they're going to play out because this is the first stream. I came up with some questions that I will ask the panel and the chat. You guys can feel free to jump in as well. Things will get extremely real, probably vulnerable tonight. And feel free as my panel members, if you guys are comfortable talking about stuff, go ahead, and if you're not, you could pass, or don't answer the question or whatever. So we got Adrian James in here saying, yeah, Bobby Bluestream, appreciate you being here, Adrian. What's Johnny watching? I was texting with Johnny earlier because the Cubs won today, so I was messing with him in April, and April said, fuck the Cubs. We got Nikki in here saying, what's up, Adrian? Nikki, just saying hi to Johnny. We got Nikki, just hides back and forth. We got Mama Blu-ray in here. Look at that. It's been a while since I've seen Mama Blu-ray around. Myself, I haven't done a whole lot of chats, though. So Johnny just saying hi to Bonnie. We've got Caprice in here saying, hello, my darlings, and hello, Bob, Joe, Vinicio, and my love, Nikki. Looking forward to listening to it tonight. Dad, I'm glad you're here. Joe saying hi to everybody. We got Ellie in the chat saying, evening, everybody. Just hides back and forth. Adam is here saying, sup, all you cool kids. Prince, what's up, Prince? Go time, lads. Konnichiwa. We got Johnny just saying hi. Jeff is here saying, good evening, my friends. It's so nice to see Bob back. Appreciate it, Jeff. Tony is in the chat. He is a mod. Well, Adam's a mod. We've got Movie Hunter here. Hello, evening, everyone. I think you posted a picture of us. Oh, the American Pie Steelbook today. I was like, oh, that thing is beautiful. Good to see you again, Bob. Adrian, welcome home to the community. My favorite Bobster, Prince says. Prince always, I appreciate Prince a lot. Nikki, I know you do too.
Yeah.
I kind of adore Prince. He's just a good fella. Corey says, hey, all, big supporter as well. What's up, Corey? How are you? If I skipped anyone, I do apologize. Bob saying this isn't a pity party is just code for my Titans suck my new team. Titans, that is for sure. That is for sure. Highs, good to see you and Vin back on here with Bob. Feels like old times for sure. So what I was saying is I reached out to Joe and Nikki, and then when I talked to Vinicio, I said, hey, I'd love to get you on as a guest one day. And I started naming a topic, and he was like, man, this sounds like something that I could do, like I'd do every week with you guys. And I was like, hey, if you want to, I could, 4 boxes fills the screen well. I was like, I could reach out to Joe and Nikki, and if they want you on. And so I did, and they were like, yeah, that sounds good. And so here he is. It's funny how things work out.
Extremely funny how things work out, man. It couldn't have worked out more perfect, because I do plan on getting back into YouTube, and I think this was the kick in the butt that I needed to get it started. So can't wait.
Yeah, and your YouTube name's now Urban Disciple, right?
Yep, it's the Urban Disciple Effect. So I'll be doing a lot of kind of helping the community, telling my testimony even more, and telling the things that I kind of went through that changed my life. So yeah.
We've got Prince saying meeting Jeff must be a huge achievement for Joe. Looking great. Joe, Nikki, and Urban, what's up, y'all? Bob and the crew are back. We love to see it. What's up, Anthony? I know Anthony, Ellie, and Caprice all went to go see Strangers 2, and they fucking hated it. They hated it. Caprice said she walked out, so I liked it. I don't know. I'm the only person that's given it like over a 1 star. For those asking, I'm meditating with music. What's up?
You like weird movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm so biased. I just love the Strangers. Can't stay long. Have a good stream, Jess says. What's up, Jess? We've got Johnny. What's up, buddy? Thanks for being here, Jess. We got, oh, look at that. Ken, Bobby's back. I almost said Ben. Because Ben is right under him. Ben Grimm. New profile picture here. Is this hair versus hair? It does look like that. Ken has come to the party now. Yep. Let's see here. Adam, just a lot of highs back and forth. Allie, Jess saying hi. We've got Time to See. Proud of you, babe. In here. I'm assuming Vinicio, that's your girlfriend?
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, I don't know her YouTube, so I'm assuming. Thank you, Mama.
Like, don't girl babe to the wrong person. Bob likes weird movies and Alicia Cuthbert. He needs serious help. Hey, don't diss Alicia Cuthbert. Great to see you streaming again, Bob. Vinicio, miss you, brother.
What's up, my brother?
I think we're caught up. I think that is it. I think I'm all down to the bottom. Yeah, so we're all good. All right, let's go ahead and just dive into it. I'll start with like I said, there's really no structure. I won't get into the questions just yet. But what were you guys' thoughts on the movie? Joe, if you want to go first. And the nice thing is we're all going to have different opinions. So it doesn't mean that we love the movie. Even no matter the movie we pick, we might have different opinions, which could be really good for the conversation.
My opinion on the movie, as a lot of people know that watch YouTube or watch me back in the day, I never go off of synopses or trailers or anything like that. I'm old school of like going to the video store when I was a kid, looking at the VHS tapes at the artwork, and whatever caught my eye catches my eye. When I saw that artwork, it's like, oh, I thought it was like going to be like Rudy or Coach Carter or something like that. So I put it in. I'm like, this has nothing to do with really basketball. And it was more of a different style movie. So it threw me for a loop when I first watched it. And I watched it once and sold it right after. I wasn't a fan of it. I rewatched it, going into it now knowing what's about. Did I like it? Yes. Would I buy it again? Still no. But I thought it was an enjoyable film. I liked it more than the first time I saw it, but it's not something I would rewatch. There's other movies in my collection that hit the topic the same, that have more of an impact for me.
Okay. How about you, Vinicio? Yeah, and like I said, I mean, for Joe, he didn't enjoy it as much. This is like a 5-star movie to me. It hit me really hard, but Vinicio, this was your first time watching it.
Yeah, this is my first time watching it. I forgot to look at who directed it. Do you know who directed it? Because it's strange, because I feel like I see one of the guys from Mallrats in it also at the beginning.
Gavin O'Connor directed it. He directed Warrior. He directed both The Accountant and The Accountant 2 recently. He directed Miracle back then. Jane Has a Gun. I honestly, he's one of my favorite directors, top 3 for me.
Nice. So I actually really liked it, man. It was a pleasant surprise. I love that it did have a lot of things that were relatable. It was kind of really cool to dissect his character and his kind of antics of what was happening and how he was handling situations. So I really liked it. Ben Affleck, though, if we want to get more movie critique, I feel like he's still not the greatest actor in the world. I feel like this probably is one of his best roles that he's done, but I still have critiques about his acting talent. But I still really, really enjoyed the movie. I'd probably, if we were doing out of 10, I'd probably give it 7.5 to 8. So I really liked it a lot.
Okay. You didn't log it on Letterboxd, did you?
I did not. I wanted to do this first and then log it on Letterboxd.
Okay, gotcha. Because you still log on Letterboxd, right?
Yeah, I just haven't been watching as many movies as I used to be honest.
Gotcha. Yeah, I always look forward to people's reviews and stuff on Letterboxd. Nikki, how about you? Obviously, we had done this on the What Did I Just Watch stream, and I had put this on your watch list, and it was your number 1.
Yeah, having my children and my husband's children as what we had to go through with some of them and some of the things that have happened just as parents, I can't imagine. We recently lost one of Tony's daughters, and if we'd had to go through that when she was younger, or not that it wasn't hard, but she had a life, and she had a very good life. So, but to know that they didn't even get to grow up, I don't know, that just hits me really hard. That movie's tough for me.
And when we were talking about doing our first topic, so I reached out to Nikki and I said, what would be, if you could pick a topic, what would you want to do? You said depression or anxiety, was it? Or no, you said something.
It was anxiety.
Okay, depression or anxiety. Yeah, and so I said, okay, and then I said The Perks of Being a Wallflower would be a really good pick for depression. Joe had seen that one, and Nikki hadn't. And then as soon as we were going to pick that, Nikki said, well, what about The Way Back? And I was like, no rebuttal from me. And so we had picked that, and then Vinicio jumped on board for the series, so that's how it came to be. And that's how episode 1 came to be. And we already have episode 2 picked out. We'll talk about the date, the topic, and the movie we'll choose at the end of the stream. For me, The Way Back was something I saw during COVID. Well, right before COVID started, because it was like the last weekend before COVID, it was in theaters. It was with Bloodshot with Vin Diesel. It was there that weekend. And then I think like everything shut down the following week because it came out like in March 7th or 13th or something crazy like that. So it was one of the last movies I saw before the theater shut down and everything shut down. And man, I was, after the trailer, this was like one of those movies I was so excited to see. I knew it was going to hit me hard, being somebody who struggled with alcohol for a little bit, knew I could get down a really bad path. And then just a lot of it. I'm a sports fan. I love Gavin O'Connor. So I was like, and I love Ben Affleck at the time too. So I was like, man, this is going to hit hard. And sure enough, it did for me. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about that. Like I said, I have 8 different questions. I tried to relate some of the questions back to the movie and then some questions on depression. And then I'll try to keep up with the chat as much as possible. Try to keep it on topic so that we can, just stay on topic, things like that. Don't forget Bob loves Katrina Bowden. Always good to see Anthony. I just missed it because I just hit the wrong button here. Jeff said this movie hits me hard as fuck. Anthony said, I saw The Way Back when it first came out, and I remember really enjoying it. My parents and I are big Affleck fans. And I know Jeff watched it for the first time because I saw his Instagram post and I saw his review on Letterboxd. And Jeff doesn't always leave a review, sometimes just a star rating. Now, Corey, he doesn't leave a rating at all on Letterboxd, just that he watched it. So I always have to, if I want to know, I have to reach out to him and say, what were your thoughts on the movie? All right. Are there any key points or anything in the movie that stuck out to you that you wanted to discuss? I've got a couple key points. I've got a couple quotes that I wrote down as well. But we'll stick with, I guess, some key points, like maybe a point of emphasis or something that just stuck out to you that you were like, this just hit really hard. I got to talk about it. Sounds like Vinicio, you're itching at the butt to say something there.
Well, I have so many notes that there's actually a lot of different parts. At the beginning, I really loved like kind of just analyzing his character and just, he obviously wasn't happy with his job. He obviously, was bad with drinking. So he was drinking in the bathroom while he's taking a shower.
Right.
That's pretty bad right there. And then, but then you see that light in him once he sees his nephews and nieces. So his brother's kids or his sister's kids, whichever they may have been. I don't recall exactly, but it's like, then you see that he's like, he could actually be a really good parent, and he wasn't probably a really good parent, and it's just messed up the cards that he was kind of dealt with that, he was just handling a horrible situation. And it was just it was very interesting to watch how obvious the situation, what his mind frame is with kind of all the different little tasks that they were showing him at home, him at work, him at his relative's house, and it just all makes sense. You just felt really bad for the guy.
Yeah. I like, because it, like you said, it develops his character. I never understood that this was really just a complete character study kind of a movie, in a different way, but it's really is a character study through and through. He's almost in every scene in the movie, and you're right. And there's a scene in the, I think I wrote it down. Yeah. Okay. So, speaking on what you said in the beginning, when he goes to his sister's house and he's sitting there after he tucks his nephew into bed, he goes downstairs and it's just him and his sister. He grabs a beer out of the fridge. I have 2 sisters. Now I'm really close with my one sister, Erin. Colleen and I, we've had our differences. We're not as close. We don't talk much. Now I don't always talk to Erin either, but I will say this. So I wrote down the conversation with his sister, people that care about you getting into your business. I can relate to that. He clearly shows anger with his sister. So sometimes depression and grief can lead to anger. And I think him not handling certain aspects and certain struggles and not addressing the grief in turning to alcohol for it, I think he also had anger issues. I think it showed. And I know that I can turn to that, and I'll talk about it later on, I'm sure.
He does even tell his wife at one point, I've never been anything but angry, when they're in the truck after. Yeah. And yeah, he let anger just well up inside him so much that all he was trying to do with the alcohol was numb it.
Yeah. And he obviously does that with the beers in the fridge, and the one, you open it up, put one in the freezer, open it up, put another one in the freezer. For me, that scene.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. That scene though, I can relate to it because I got friends, even Joe, and then a buddy of mine recently. I've been trying to I'm setting goals for myself. I'm trying to hold myself accountable. I got friends I send the goals to. Nikki's one of them. So every night I set daily goals for myself and I send the goals at the end of the night. And I got people that are holding me accountable. And my one buddy called me out, and a friend of mine, he's not in the movie community or anything. I met him like 9 years ago. And you need people like this though that are going to call me out. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing? What do you want to do with your life in 5 years?" Things like that. And I was just kind of like, "Hey, I'm just trying to focus on now and get my life together and figure out what I'm doing here." And he's like, "Yeah, but your future is now." And I think sometimes it's so easy to shut off or shut down or walk away when you're frustrated or somebody is calling you out. But a person like my buddy, a person like Joe or Nikki or Vinicio, we had a talk about a month ago, and you said something, you were like, you might not want to hear this, and I didn't mind hearing it. But I like tough love. I think I like constructive criticism better than I like that puppy dog type of love. I think sometimes you need that. And so for him, his sister was looking out for him. His sister says to him, "You're all alone." She cared. She loved him. And I think sometimes as a person, it's so easy to be like, why are you in my business? Like, stay out of it. Let me handle shit myself. Like, let me do what I need to do. But sometimes it's if it's coming from somebody like your sister, it's probably coming from a place of love. They care. And that's something I had wrote down, Vinicio. And I'm sorry we kind of interrupted each other there. So
You're good.
You're good. Train of thought.
No, actually, you finished right where I could leave off, man. And I feel like I don't want to say it's only a male thing, but I feel like because I'm guilty of it when I was younger, I feel like having anger as a outlet for your depression, especially as a young boy, it's because we're not taught how to communicate properly, or we're taught to not to hold in all our feelings. And the only way we know how to express ourselves in the way that is the typical man is to do it out of anger. And all we do is just make ourselves look stupid and kind of start losing people that actually do care about us. So it's all kind of, I feel like, a learning process, you know.
I couldn't agree more with that, man. Like, I was talking to Nikki about bottling. It's almost like a boiling point. We as men are taught you don't talk about your feelings. Like, hey, if you're struggling with something, you just bottle that shit up. You go through it. Like, you're a man. And I get that. I do. Okay. I was kind of taught that, and I don't necessarily disagree with certain aspects of it. I think as a man, when you're going through something, you still, like, you got to have friends who are going to be there with you, but you have got to figure out a way to keep moving forward. If you got a family, you still got to put food on the table. Like, life doesn't stop for your depression or your anger or anything like that. Now, so you've got to find healthy ways to cope with it. But as a man too, you've got to provide. Like, if your wife's not working and you just had a baby, you've got to you still got bills to pay. You still got a kid you got to feed. Like, you've got to learn. Joe, you've got an 8-year-old. Vinicio, you got kids. And Nikki, you got kids. I don't. But as like a man, Vinicio and Joe, you've got to find a way. Joe, we've talked about this. Your son, like, having to put your son first over yourself. Like, if there's physical media movies you want, you don't get it if your son needs clothes for school or something.
Yeah. I've always said my son's the top of the food chain in my house, and whatever I have to do, if I have to sell my whole collection because something happened to my son, I would do it in the blink of an eye. I put my son first before anything. And, as I said before, I'm very protective of my son. I will, do the wrath of hell on anybody who even hurt my son. Because of, like with my past I had no mother or father. They both left when I was real young. So because of that, I've always had that family thing of an issue with me. So because of that, with my son is before anything. So that's what matters to me. And because
you never want him to feel what you felt.
No. And I said that a long time ago and I've said it to Bob. I waited till I was, in my 40s before I even had a son, because I always said I never want my son to go through what I went through as a kid, with the physical abuse, the mental abuse, me almost committing suicide when I was 8 years old at my son's age now. I never want my son to go through that, of the pain and hurt that I went through. So I'll do anything for my son. So because of that, he's my priority. That's why some of the things on this movie really touches me. It's like, when I was my son's age, I got suspended, I think, 21 times in third grade because I was the biggest bully. And I fought anybody for any reason just because I was always so angry. You know, I constantly hurt people and I hurt myself.
Lashing out was your outlet.
And that's what it was, because I'm a type of person that I just bottle everything in. I don't talk to people, whenever. And that was one of the things that with that movie was, what I liked, the line that always hit me was, you can't think of your past. You can't think of what happened to you in the past. You just got to move forward and look at the future. And that's something that took me until my 30s to even deal with that. It's because even when we first started live streaming, I was still so bitter at what happened to me that, till around when my son was born, I still carried that crutch on my shoulder. So, and it's something that I've been trying to get away from.
That quote was, we can't change the past, Jack. What we can do is choose how we move forward. And I was just talking to Nikki about it. I said, I know it's a cliche quote. I know people say it all the time. We can't change the past. You could change it how you move forward. But it's true. It's so true. And it hit me. I wrote it down because it hit me so hard.
Yeah. And it's just something you got to look at. You can't really change what happened to you. All you can do is learn from it and not make the same mistakes that people did on you.
Yeah.
Or you did to yourself.
No. Lord knows I've made my fair share of mistakes. And I talked to Nikki quite a bit. She's a blessing in my life and a very good friend. And all of you have been. And I talked to you guys quite a bit. And, my problem has always been like repeat offender. I make the same mistake over and over. I've done the same thing. And it's like, hey, learn from your mistake. Don't do it. But here I am. I repeat it. I do the same mistake. And it's like, what is going to change? At what point are you going to stop making the same mistakes and change? And sometimes you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say like, hey, what is it going to take? What do you got to do to stop making those same mistakes? What does it take?
That's kind of what it really takes, man, is that self-accountability. A lot of people don't want to have self-accountability and look in the mirror and stop pointing the fingers and be like, okay, some things may be some other people's problem, but what could I have done to avoid it or made the situation better or not happen? So, there's a lot of people who don't want to self-reflect, and that's what you got to do in order to progress.
Now, I don't mean this. Man, Vinicio, I'm telling you, like I've talked to you on the phone and we had a conversation. I'm sure I'll get into it later on tonight. But like, dude, I don't know if it's just me or, the people in the chat or Joe and Nikki listening too, but I feel like you, from when I first knew you, but to now, like the wisdom that you spew too, and just the knowledge that comes out of your mouth. You're very well spoken for one. And I just feel like you articulate what you're trying to say really well. Like when I just feel like, some people, when they speak, you want to listen. I feel like you're one of those people, at least for me.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate that, but it's crazy, man, because like I've always said, man, my whole life, I'll go from one relationship to another and I never take the time to heal and go through stuff. And this is the first time I ever like actually took the time and self-reflect and then see what am I doing? What part of the problem am I? And then finding God during this whole time too helped me a lot as well, man. So, it's just this past year, it's past 3 years actually have changed my life, and I feel like made me a better person, man. So
you went through a lot, man. You went through a lot. One of the things I wrote down too, because we're on it, Joe mentioned it, but I wrote a key point was confronting your past. And I think he had to eventually do that. That was one of the biggest things. And I'm sure you three can talk about that as well. I'm sure it stuck out a little bit. Joe's already talked about it too, and so is Vinicio. But yeah, I mean, that was such a huge thing in the movie. Is I feel like Nikki kind of said it, his outlet was, anger and then like the bottle. He just, or beer or whatever, he turned to a can. Instead of confronting his past in a healthy way, he turned to alcohol. And I wrote that one down. And I mean, it also goes along with the other 2 points I wrote, which was self-destructing behavior. He did everything self-destructive, and then battling addiction. Those were key points. I wrote those 3 things down, but they're all true.
Yeah, I never dealt with. That's why some of the movie just I didn't relate with that much, because even though I'm a smoker, I've never done drugs. I don't drink. I don't have any kind of those, gambling or anything like that. So my thing has always been isolation, pushing. My whole life I've always kept everybody an arm's distance away. I've never let anybody get close to me for the sole purpose of, if you're not close to me, you can't hurt me. So
right.
I never wanted to deal with that stuff. So that was always my alcohol. Is just keeping people away, and the anger that I felt towards everything. And whenever I felt anything for anybody, I got distant, and that was always my thing. I tried to push people away before I got close.
Did it make you lonely?
No, because even to this day, the thing that I deal with is, since I was 10 and a half years old, I've never been a day without working, from doing a paper route back then to working 60 to 84 hours. I buried myself in work and slept, and just pushed everybody away. And I became a workaholic because of that. And to this day, I still work 60 hours a day for 33 years. But I do it a lot also for my son now, to make sure that he's taken care of and everything like that. But that's what I've always dealt with. It's my alcohol is work. That's what I deal with, and I still deal with that to this day. That's where I bury myself in. That's like my calm place. Even
That's
though
good,
work
though.
is crazy.
At least you can have that as a calm place.
Yeah.
It's better than the drug or alcohol like Vinicio and I have turned to in the past.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not to put you on blast, man. No, we're both open books. So sorry to call you out, Vinicio, like that.
No, I was just gonna, honestly, I was waiting for my time so I could get into it, because I've dealt with all that. I've dealt with substance abuse. I was never really addicted to alcohol. I just didn't like my decisions that I would make when I was under the influence of alcohol. So that kind of is what made it like a bad thing to do, But I just have a really addictive personality. So anything that I like, I get addicted to. So obviously collecting movies, that was a huge thing for a while there. Then I had to get rid of everything and go through that mourning stage and everything like that. Jobs too. When I'd get a job, I'll get addicted to it and work my ass off so I could get even more money. And it's like if I'm in a relationship, I get addicted to my relationship. My kids, I'm addicted to my kids. It's like, so I have a very addictive personality. Anything that I'm like, and sometimes it's the bad things, I get addicted to. So I just try to stay away from all that stuff now.
I've never heard anybody else say addicted to their children except myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I could not that because I don't have kids, but Vinicio, I get what you're saying. I feel like you and I relate so much, man.
Absolutely,
been through a lot of some similar experiences, but in different ways and stuff like that. But the addicted, like I've always said, I'm a all in kind of person. I'm not a dip my toe in the water, just kind of jump in halfway. Like I'm all in or all out. And now that could be a really good thing, because when I'm all in, it's great. But I, like you, even with work, man, sometimes I get addicted to work and I'm just like money, and then money can become an idol almost. Like anything I feel like can potentially be bad, too much of something potentially. Like it's good to work, it's good to, do things like that, pray or whatever it might be, working out. But even when I was working out all the time, people are like, oh, you're addicted to that. Like, so you got to be careful, I think, with certain aspects. But I get it. I get what you're saying, because it was always like all in or all out. And when I'm all out, though, it's bad, because now I'm like, I could get addicted to the wrong things and go down a really bad path with the self-destructive behavior, like I know that all too well, unfortunately.
Well,
Yep.
I feel like, you know, I'm not going to say everyone, but I feel like, you know, I would think like 90% of the people all have some type of addictive personality with something that a lot of times it's life is tough and you need to find something as an escapism. Some people use a bottle, some people do drugs, some people like, you know, even like when we've talked about it before with movies. I get that tunnel vision that I focus in on it and I just forget about life and forget about everything. And I don't watch as many movies and I've always done it with work. I concentrate so much on work that I try to forget about life, my past, everything, and just try to focus on one thing. Just like, you know, like I said before, sometimes you take things day by day, sometimes you got to take things minute by minute, just because sometimes times get tough, but you got to just power through it and keep on chugging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can find things in your life to ease the addiction for a little while and escape somewhat of some kind, but I don't know. And then when you break away from an addiction and you miss it, so then you got to find something to fill that hole, and then something
Yeah.
else you get addicted to. So
Yeah.
it's stupid.
Nikki told me today. She's last night actually. We were talking about running because I got back issues, and it's always something. If it wasn't my foot, it was my ankle. If it wasn't that, it was my knee, shoulder, all these different things. And I've been dealing with a lot of issues, and I just can't get out there and run. I've been trying to go to the gym, and now I'm dealing with the shoulder issue. And Nikki asked me yesterday, like, if you can't run, what do you turn to? Like, what's your anchor? Because I was talking about how running was always that. If I went through something, I'd just go out for a run. Like, running was always there for me. I could go out and I could scream, I could tear up, I could run. It was just me and the wind, right? Like me and the outdoors, and you could just talk out there while you're running, and it just listens. It's not talking
Form of
back to you.
meditation.
Yeah, it's not talking back to you. It doesn't tell you if you're right or wrong. It just lets you talk. It just lets you be there. And as corny as that sounds, Vin might understand hard copy blues where I'm coming from with that, or anybody else who runs. But I've not. I guess in a way, ever since I stopped running and I dealt with injuries, I've almost been searching for that. Like I miss competing and I miss doing that, and it's like I'm searching and I'm trying to get out there and do the race in May. And then I'm dealing with all these injuries now, and it's so frustrating. But Nikki's right. Like you got to find something, that healthy outlet, that whatever it is, but something healthy, not a bottle, not gambling, not something unhealthy. And sometimes, I mean, you talked about tunnel vision, Joe. Sometimes, like I'm sure Vinicio feels it, you know, being in a relationship and stuff. Like sometimes a woman or a relationship, Nikki, you know, a man in your life can do that. Like can help you just clear your head, like just help you get that tunnel vision, like to help you focus, almost be like your anchor.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes all you need is some kind of positive support like that, you know, and it'll
Yeah.
just push you to even be a better person, you know.
100%, and that's something I always look for in a relationship, like just being with a woman that makes me the best version of myself just by being herself, like just understanding that, like, hey, I care about this person, I want to be a better version of myself because they deserve it.
Exactly. That's what I'm going through right now, actually. So if you're still watching,
um
man,
I wrote, one of the things I wrote was like basketball gave Jack a purpose. That gave, you know, we're talking about that right now, like that outlet. I think basketball was that, and it helped him reconnect with the world around him because he was so
yeah.
he like you talked about, Joe, like tunnel vision with work. He was like that, but he was also drinking. He had no outside, like the world around him. Like you could see even when he was working, he didn't talk to anybody.
No.
Right.
And you know, because he had basketball at the beginning, but because that's when his dad showed an interest in him. He's like, "Oh, you're going to show an interest in me because of basketball. I'm giving up basketball because of it." You know, because he didn't look at him as his son. He just looked at him as, once he started accomplishing something great in his life, then he's like, "Oh, I want to be a part of your life." And then that's when he gave it all up for
Yeah.
I
so long.
I actually relate to that a lot as well too, because my father, you know, even the times that I did see him, even when I was a little kid and stuff like that, you know, he never showed me love or anything like that, or support, or you know, anything like that. So it was a trip, you know, going through that, where somebody just kind of, a parent uses you for the benefit of what they could do for you, not because they're your child and you love them. So I did relate to that also, and that's actually pretty deep too, because mean, I'm 39 years old, and it still, is in my mind. That's just a strange thing, because I can't imagine. With my kids, I tell them all the time, all day long. It'd probably annoy them how much I told them how much I love them. But what parent doesn't want to do that to their kids is what amazes me.
I probably
Yeah.
drive my boys crazy. I'm like, I want to
Yeah.
know the business. I don't call them and dig in anymore, but when they call me, I'm just like, yeah, what you need, what, it's like,
Yeah.
I can't help it. It's like,
Yeah,
Picturing
that's
they're
picturing Jeff
36 and
right now.
34, and I just, I don't pass up their phone calls. I don't miss a moment that I can be with them.
that's the way it was.
I drive
That's the
Jeff
way.
out of his mind, I'm sure. So
That's the way it is with my son. It's one thing that I told Marie, that I was always looking forward when I came home, and he would like crawl to the door. And
Yeah.
every day when I come home, once he hears that door, he comes running. He brings me something to drink. He's like, "Oh, here's a Tootsie Roll or some grapes out of the fridge." He's like, we talk about his school day and everything, and it's like the thing that I look forward to every single day. That when he comes running to that front door for me, because I know once he gets older, that's going to go away. So it's something that It's the thing that I look
it
forward to.
might not, Joe. It might
Yeah.
not.
No, but it's something that I enjoy, and it's one thing, you know, that I try to really take with my son, just because when my dad was a drug dealer, and he got killed in '86 from a
Mm.
bad drug bust. And why I never did drugs, because it just soured me, because he gave up his life for that, and I never wanted to go down that path. Anyhow, when I was 5 years old, it was the last time I saw my dad, and he bought me this stupid little statue that said, world's greatest son. He tried to bring me to the movies, and I remember kicking this shit in and saying, "I hate you. You pushed mama away," and all this other stuff. It was the last time I ever saw him, and to this day, I've always regretted that. After he died, I never cared until he died, and now it's like, I wish I would have spent more time with him, but I don't know how well it would have been, just because of the life that he led, and that's all he really cared about, and that's why he left. But it was just like, sometimes I think about those things, so it's just things that I think about with my son. So, I could kind of understand with that whole father son dynamic with his son in basketball and everything, just because of things like that. Because when my dad actually showed an interest in me is when I lashed out at him and pushed him away and never saw him again.
Joe,
So,
you talked about the running into your arms, you open the door. Rosalie, she's 5, she'll be 6 in November, and she's kind of already, now when she sees me, it's not as exciting as when she did when she was younger. I'm just the uncle, I'm not her dad anyways. But there were moments where Rosalie, like, I would walk in the door and she would run into your arms, her head around your hip, is because she's so small, and her arms around your leg, because that's how tall they are. But there was one time too at a family party, she got yelled at or whatever, and she just came running to me, and while I'm eating and I'm sitting at the table, and just kind of resting her head on my hip, and and those are those moments though, when they run into your arms or you get to pick them up. It just being an uncle, and she's my goddaughter, but those moments, they're the greatest moments. I remember telling my friend, like, you hear about it, but when you get to experience it yourself, any kid running into your arms, you talk about that. Bible talks about it, Vinicio, kids and stuff. And man, holding Rosalie in my arms though, like, and having her run to you, everything else in that moment, if you're depressed, if you're angry, if you're about to get evicted, it doesn't matter. Like, everything goes away at that moment. You're just like, all that matters is her. And I love those feelings. And you talked about, like, watching a movie, you get tunnel vision. Those are those feelings that I search, whether it's with Rosalie or a run or whatever it may be, where you get so lost in something good, so lost that it's just like everything else escapes in that moment. And it might be a movie for an hour and a half. It could be a hug for 30 seconds, but those are some of the best moments, like, that could make your entire year.
yeah.
Yeah, Joe, man, that's so neat that you said that, dude, man. That is probably one of my best memories of with my kids, man. I remember I had one of my first apartments, and I remember I was working at Sears, and I wasn't even a manager yet, which I was only not a manager for a few months. But man, I remember I'd come home after trying to prove myself because I was working my ass off to try to get promoted. And, I just come back so tired. 3 of my babies, they were all so small. One would go to one leg and wrap around its leg around my leg. The other one would come to the other leg, and then I'd grab the other one in the middle, and I'd be walking with them all through the house, man. It was just, it'd be that thing every single day when I came home, man. It was so neat.
I know what you're talking about, Vinicio, because my dad had 3 kids. So my sister's on one leg, my other sister on the other leg, and my dad picking me up and walking. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was amazing, man. You feel like such a superhero, bro. It's the best feeling in the world.
Heck yeah. When you talked about Vinicio a minute ago earlier, like trying to get love from your dad, and Joe, you talked about it as well. For me, when I ran a race, my dad he was always around. He's always been around. We're still close, I would say. We don't talk much, but I still look at us as close. It's different aspect of close now, though. And but my dad was never like the words of affirmation type. He was never the type to, he'd say I love you, but not very much. And you knew it, but he wouldn't say it a whole lot. And like my dad and I kind of learned it too. Like I only saw my dad cry twice at his dad's wake. And then when he fell off a roof and he came home that day and cried in my mom's arms, it was the first time I ever saw my dad crying. And then I only saw it once more my entire life. Sure, during a movie, he might tear up. He's like me. But, it was something that like, I got that from my dad. Like, you don't talk too much about your feelings. You don't, open up, I guess. And so I never really heard my dad too much say, I'm proud of you. That was more my mom, probably. I also felt like I never gave my parents a reason to be proud, just being honest. But when I ran Highlander Assault, it's 26.2 miles. It's a marathon and then 100 obstacles. And I remember going out on the 3rd lap and I was like heat exhaustion. I didn't know if I would make it. And I finished the race. I called my dad afterwards and I came in very last place, a last person that finished. And I called my dad and I said, yeah, I came in last place, but I finished it. And my dad goes, I don't give a fuck if you came in last place. He goes, you finished, and that's all that matters, and I'm proud of you. And that's hearing awesome. My dad say, I'm proud of you in that moment was just like, man, I think I teared up in the car on my way home because I was just like, man, I long to hear my dad say that. Like, it meant the world to hear him say that, even coming in last place, but I finished it. And it was one of the hardest things I had ever done because I didn't know if I could do it. And hearing him say that, like, it meant the world. So just wanted to share that. You guys talk about like finding that love with your dad, but yeah, it meant the world.
And just like Joe, because of those things, I made an emphasis to make sure that my kids never felt that from me. So they could do the little C, just like how your dad said, and I just let them know that I'm proud of them, and that I love them and everything else like that. So every opportunity I can, I'd never wanted them to feel like that.
I was talking to Nikki earlier about it. We might know our parents love us in some cases, you know what I mean? Like, but I think it's important to hear too, like in my last relationship, like hearing it sometimes that, hey, you matter, like I need you, or I want you in my life, or I miss you. In some people just don't say it, or they'll say, you should know I like how I feel or something. It's like, no, I got to hear it. Like, I still got to hear it. Like, it's good to hear. It's important.
I tell, as a matter of fact, Jeff was here over the weekend and I looked him straight in the face and said, you do know I love being your mother, right? I mean, it's just, I wanted 12 children. I had the 2 and I'm a lot more mom than they can handle sometimes. So can't help
because you have enough love for 10 more. So you have to bombard 2.
I sure do.
I always wanted to have a lot of kids too, man. That was like my goal, but it unfortunately just keeps working out horrible for me.
And I said this to you.
Well, I married a man with 5, so it made up some of the difference. So
that's awesome. Definitely.
Vinicio, when I was super close, Joe, I didn't quite know you. I don't even know if I knew you at the time, but I was really close with you and Adam. And you and Adam were sharing a lot of posts on Instagram with your kids. And I remember telling you and Adam, man, like no matter what people think, and I don't know, you know what I mean, people love Adam or don't, or how they feel about either one of you. I was like, or how I felt about you guys. Like, you guys were my brothers. But I always tell Adam, I'm like, dude, you are a good dad. Like he's got it, his kids are in high school. It's a tough age. Like they might get in trouble or whatever, do something he's not proud of. And he'll tell me, he'll voice message me and say, I gotta be a dad tonight. I gotta do what, I gotta do a dad thing tonight or whatever. And it's just like, I see the kind of father Adam is though. Like he loves his movies. He loves movie hunting, but man, he's a good father. He's a good father. And I love that family. I love that they make me feel like a part of their family. Wendy's great, his wife, and I think they're great parents. They really are. And then Vinicio, I always said it to you too, man, when you were with your kids, like you would post on Instagram. I was like, these guys love their kids, man. They love sharing it. And like, I love seeing it. I just think it's awesome. Like being somebody who's close with my dad, I always appreciate that because I just think a son needs his father, man. It's so important. And
Yeah,
you see
and that's
dads not being in the household, and we see the way these kids just,
savages.
You need a father in your life, man. I just think you do. And it's no disrespect to women at all. Nikki, I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from.
I do.
A boy needs his dad. I just think a boy needs his dad.
And that's why, I always try to say as many
But a
positive
boy needs
things
his
to my
mom too.
No, for
as
sure.
well.
For sure. I'm just
And honestly, when you really break it down, daughter needs their father too, because the father needs to show the daughter how a woman should actually be treated, so they don't go out there and accept somebody treating them like shit, because they had a bad showing from their father of how to treat a woman. So that's important as well too, I feel like.
And one thing I want to say, and it's a shout out for kind of Marie, and that's something that is talked about. In my whole life, I've never heard that, good job, or I've never heard that from my parents. But like I said, that was a young age, and then I grew up with my grandmother. I've never heard that. I never heard that till Marie, till with thanks for everything you do for the house, and I love watching you with Gary, with our son, and it's just like. And she tells me all the time, thanks for everything that you do. I really appreciate it all. And I've never, in almost 50 years of my life, I've never heard anybody say that to me. So it makes me feel good for the time away from home and all the stuff that I have to do to provide for us. So
that just proves your actions show her how much you love her, Joe.
Yep, that's beautiful.
That's beautiful. You talked about that. You never know, and it was a quote in the movie too. You never know the difference the impact you can have on them. And like Marie saying, "Hey, good job. I love the way you are with Gary," whatever that may be, and the way she lifts Joe up. She might not even understand the impact that she's having on Joe in that moment, seeing it on Joe's face even right now. Like you never know your words and kindness and just, hey, I'm proud of you. Vinicio, you're a good dad. Whatever it might be. Nikki, you're a great mother. You never know the impact that you can have or the impact that your words can have on somebody. And you never know. Nikki might be struggling. Jeff might have mouthed off to her. Shame on you, Jeff. And she just might be down, right? Because Jeff said something to her or whatever. But you never know the impact you can have by just saying, hey, you're a great mother. Like you do a good job. Like you care. You're a good dad.
Yeah.
Words of affirmation are extremely important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like I said, for me, something, and I'm sharing a lot, I'm on my soapbox right now, but it's just like, because of everything that happened, it's for most of my life. And why I've done the crazy shit that I've done. I never thought I was good enough, or I never thought I was worth anything. Cause it's like, why did everybody leave me? So because of that, for that my son coming to me, and the words of encouragement that Marie gives, or even my son, in the last year or so, he's like, you're a great dad. I love you, Dad. He says that to me a lot, and it really touches me, because it's just like, it's something I need. I need sometimes to just go, I'm doing all right.
I think we as men in particular won't say it, but we truly need it deep down. We need to hear that. It helps. Like I said earlier, like we might not say it too often, but we like it's important to us. But I just don't think and here's the thing, men don't get complimented a lot. We just don't. But let me tell you, I love a good compliment. Like I like it makes me feel good about myself. You know what I mean? Like it feels good to hear that, and it just doesn't happen as much as men. It like I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that it's just not a thing.
Oh, dude, I swear, my new girlfriend, man, I've been dating her for like 8 days now, and she has gave me more words of affirmation than I've ever had, and she just praises me all the time. It's freaking amazing, and I'm not used to it, but I'm loving the shit out of it, man. So it's really neat. So yes, it's very important. I feel like very important.
Vinicio, do you feel like because you're living more upright now that you're able to receive those compliments, though?
Maybe, I mean, because I'm doing the best mentally and, with my choices in life better than I've ever done in my life. But there's still amazing things that I've done in my life, so I feel like I've deserved good jobs before, but I feel like I'm really getting them right now. So it feels good.
Well, you're in a good place now. So you're able to receive all that open-hearted.
Very true.
I'm glad you're getting that, man. I just think it's important, and I love that. I love that for you, man. I think hell yeah, it's good. Like we need to encourage each other.
Man. It's great. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, because I was gonna say with me, I never felt anything like that till literally my son was born. Because before my son was born, I was still a complete mess. Not even if somebody gave me affirmation, I wouldn't believe it.
Right.
I've been there too.
I'm going to touch on a key point. I want to apologize to the chat. Like, I appreciate you guys being here. Anybody who's still here. I got it still sitting at 8:20 p.m. We're 40 minutes. I haven't scrolled once. I knew that it would be difficult because I don't want to get away from the topic that we're discussing. So, I'm sure the chat, my panel can see the chat better than I can. But I just wanted to get lost in the conversation, like that tunnel vision we talked about. So whoever's watching and is watching on replay or anything like that, I appreciate it. Sorry for not getting into the chat. I hope you don't mind. I'll try and catch up and stuff like that after we can go into questions. There is one key point I wanted to talk about, and then I'll kind of move on and let you guys talk a little bit. I wrote when he leaves the hospital after seeing that his friend's kid and he goes straight to the bar, I can absolutely relate to turning to my addiction when I'm hurting or struggling with something. Like that outlet or that anchor we've talked about so much in this stream. He turned straight to alcohol. His wife was there with him, but he didn't turn to her. He went straight to the bar. And I can relate so much to like you going through something instead of talking about it. I mean, I'll talk about it tonight, but I shut down. Like this year, I'd never really struggled the way I did this year. And I shut out, like ever since I got back from Tennessee, and I shut people out of my life. Like I ignored Nikki's phone calls. I ignored Tony. Corey reached out multiple times and I ignored every single one of his texts. I just didn't want to talk to anybody. I shut down and I went through my own self, and I was in a dark place with dark thoughts. And I think that was me. Like I was hurting. And I just figured, hey, I got to do it alone. I got to figure it out. And so when he left the hospital, like it hits hard.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I was also in a very dark place too, man. Go ahead.
I would say I'll agree with that as well, just because I'm the type of person that I'm the type of person that shuts people out. Like I said, I keep people on arm's length, and when I get like that, I don't talk much, and I just want to be left alone. I, as a man, and just as me being pretty much alone my whole life, I look at it as I feel a better accomplishment when I could do it on my own than if I could do it with somebody else. I've even to this day, and Marie can tell you, I'm the type of person that if I can't do it, I don't want nobody's help. I don't want nobody's help with anything. I do it on my own, and I feel more of accomplishment. I'd rather fall on my face alone than have a ton of people helping me to do something. That's been my life. I've always been very independent. That I don't rely on anybody. My grandmother told me when I was 10 years old, when I first started working, you want anything, you're going to have to do it yourself because nobody's going to do it for you. So no matter how I feel inside, I've always been the type of person of I do it alone and I deal with it alone. I like I said, I like to shut down, and even sometimes, even now, I just like to sit on the couch just by myself, and I just stay quiet, and I have to decompress sometimes.
Now, do you feel like this year, or do you feel like you've gotten better about opening up to others or anybody or letting people in?
It's still tough. Like talking a lot. A lot of it started when I started doing YouTube. Before I did YouTube, I would never talk to anybody at all. When I first started doing YouTube, the reason I started doing it was to talk to people and to try to open up more and to try to feel more comfortable about myself. And as the years went on, I just became more and more open. And it's like I said, it's how me and Bob ever started talking, because I'm back long time ago when he started opening up on his streams. I DM'd Bob out of the blue, and me and him never really talked to before game nights or anything. And I talked to him on a DM, and I was like, I've related to a lot of things he said, and I just told him I appreciated it, because it's like it was something that I wasn't even comfortable even talking about yet to people, and I felt like Bob was a lot braver than I was, because he was able to do it on a stream. I couldn't do that even with Marie. I still, to this day, and to be 100% honest, I could never sit down with Marie and just talk about how I feel. It's just I can't do that. It's so ingrained in my head from when I was a kid. I can't do that stuff. I have a hard time doing it. I can't open myself up that way.
Some things you never heal from, no matter how
No,
long.
it's
I had
too
a
tough.
really bad relationship before I married my husband, and there's still things that creep up and haunt me from the healing that I feel like I've done, but it still creeps in.
Joe, and I'm sure figured I'd talk about it later on during one of these questions, and we'll get into that shortly here. But when I shut everyone out recently, a couple months ago, and I stopped talking to everybody, some people didn't even know because I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't even. Tony at one point texted me and said, "Hey, I just want to know you're okay, you're alive." And I didn't even text him back. Didn't even say, "Yeah, I'm good." Corey, same thing. But there was one person I kept talking to. Joe, you were the only person I didn't shut out of my life. And it's because we do our movie swap every week. And it's funny because about a month ago or so, Joe and I were talking. We talked about our movie. We'll call each other at least once a week, talk about the movie. Sometimes it's 5 minutes, we'll talk about the movie. Sometimes it's 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But there was one night we talked, one day or night, and we were talking about the movie, and it was like a 5-minute conversation about the movie. And then I was just like, hey, I've shut everybody out, man. I'm not even responding to anybody. I was like, I'm just going through it right now. Sometimes I don't want to talk about it with anybody. And Joe was like, I have too. Like I'm not talking to anybody. I kind of shut everybody out as well right now. And I was like, I'll be honest with you, man. I don't know what I would do without this movie swap. I was like, and it's more than just like picking a movie. I said, but you know what, man? Because with the movie swap, I said, I told him, I said, if we weren't doing the movie swap, I wouldn't be talking to you either. And it was vice versa, really. And it was like, in a way, we needed that, though, because that movie swap was a way of Joe and I communicating. And I had everybody shut out of my life. And so if it wasn't for us picking a lousy movie each week to watch, I would have shut everybody out. And if I didn't have that conversation with Joe, those conversations once a week, I was already in a dark place with some dark thoughts. And
I think I just hounded you until you finally couldn't stand it anymore and returned my call.
Yeah,
because I was the same way as Bob. I gave up YouTube. I never went on Instagram. I didn't talk to anybody. I never even reached out to. The only person I messaged once in a while or sent a funny reel to was Bob. Or like I said, we talked about a movie once a week, and that was about it. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have talked to anybody.
And there were times where our conversation would last 10 minutes, and then every once in a while, every couple weeks, man, me and Joe would get down, like, and talk about some shit, you know, and get real with it. And I think we both needed that, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you want me to jump into the questions and stuff? I mean, like I said, I got 8
Go for it.
questions. I can pull them up. I'll try and run through the chat. If there's anything else you want to talk about or anything, go ahead and feel free while I'm going through the chat and everything like that. We got,
you know, it's actually kind of crazy. This last or this most recent little depression that I went through too, it kicked all of us off YouTube because I lost my motivation for YouTube, and I lost my confidence, I guess, that I had for YouTube. So that kind of played a factor in that little dark place. But you know, I was also like you, Joe, too, and always it was nobody really that taught me and engraved it in my head besides like being on the streets and living that life is to not ask anybody for help, to get it yourself. But with this last struggle that I went through was the first time in my life I ever asked for help, and it was actually probably the greatest decision that I made, because it's now, you know, in the position that I am kind of in my life, you know, and I could have been in a much worse position, still stuck making bad decisions because I had too much pride to ask for help. You know, so that's kind of the situation that I kind of relate to with what you said, man. It's true.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing that I still deal with is my pride, that I never rely on anybody, and to this day I just can't do it. You know, I rather, like I said, I rather fall on my face than ask anybody for anything. You know,
Yeah, I'm actually going through something myself right now where I've been working 3 jobs for the last, I don't know what, Bob, 5 or 6 months, and I quit one of the jobs today because I'm not gonna let that stress me out anymore. So, and it's gonna be one of those things where it ain't gonna be the right money now, but it's just gonna be what it's gonna be because I have to cut it out. I just have to.
Yeah, I get the
Mental
pride thing
health and
too.
physical health are more important.
That was me. Too much pride to ask for help, like, and just didn't. Hey, nobody's gonna help. I got to go through it on my own. Like, I just got to figure this out. I've always believed that. If you guys want to take a break or anything, if you guys have to take a piss or, you know, washroom break or anything, I'm gonna catch up with the chat really quick. We got Adam saying family first. Joe speaking truth right now. Eli's in the chat. What's up, everyone? I know he said he would be here. I appreciate it. Eli, what's going on? Don't forget to slash that like button. Hello there, Caprice. How are you? Bob knows this. I told April I would burn every movie in my collection if it meant she'd be safe from harm. Yeah, like you guys said, family first. Absolutely. When I started selling some of my collection, it got easier, you know. And Vinicio, I talked to you about that. Like, is it easy? Do you move on? And you do. You know, it's like anything. I guess it takes time, but you move on. And it really wasn't hard once I started parting ways with a lot of the collection. A lot of it was shit I'd never watch again. Vinicio getting his flowers finally, and his glow up make me smile so hard. So proud of you, dude. Hell yeah.
Thank you so much.
I just
appreciate that.
smoked the. Eli says I just smoked the green. Nothing wrong with that, Eli. Amazon just shipped mine. I know what you a Nightmare on Elm Street set. I buy movies as my escape. Tony said. I like listening to music that makes me feel happy. Okay. Adrian, I agree. Music is definitely an outlet for some. Sometimes you just need something that makes you feel like you're in control, because life sometimes makes you feel like you have none.
Yeah, I listen to so much music.
Speaking from your experience, parents can do irreversible damage to their kids, and sometimes an "I'm sorry" won't fix what's been done.
100%.
Nikki has
sometimes you don't even get an "I'm sorry" ever, so it's just a never-ending, no closure kind of thing.
Yep. Nikki says or Johnny said she has more than 12 kids. Tony said my dad loved us and took care of us, but never used the words "I love you" or "I am proud of you." But we knew. You know, speaking of that, I think, okay, so everybody knows and loves Tony. I think, now Tony's not here to talk about it, but I will say this because I said it to Nikki earlier. I said, no matter how vulnerable I could get, and there was one conversation I had with Tony a couple weeks ago, and I was like, hey man, I look at you as a brother, you're my closest friend, and I just gave him some praises, and he immediately like gave a sarcastic joke afterwards. And that's how Tony is. Like, I don't think Tony knows how to take those compliments, maybe because he never heard them. I'm not sure, Tony's not here to talk about it, but I know, like, when I sing my praises to Tony, he'll usually like make a joke, and that's just who Tony is. He just, everything's sarcastic with him, but it's hilarious. I repeat what he said today or something, and I would say, I told Nikki, you were cracking up. I was dying laughing at what he said. Sucks, but needs to be done, Johnny. I didn't have a dad growing up, so trying to be the best I can, Adam says. Like Joe. Aquamarine, amen, baby. We have got now that's your girlfriend, I know, so maybe a different. I'm not. Marie says, I feel I don't say it enough. Being home, well, 90% myself. Happy to greet you, and thanks for eating my bacon. Hey man, something about men and women, and I'm sure Joe can speak to this, and Vinicio and all of us. I've seen reels of a guy complaining because there's TV dinner that his wife's got for him. I'll tell you what, if I come home and my girlfriend cooked anything, you're gonna hear praises out of me. It don't matter if it's a fucking hot or whatever it is. I'm not complaining. I'm just grateful you cooked. You didn't need to do that.
I was gonna say, because
effort. All you need is effort.
Yeah. Marie can attest to this. Marie, she has crazy allergies, so the food that she eats is like super organic, super bland, and some of it's not that good. When we first, and I did it for a lot of years, and she'll attest to this, I ate that food. What she made, I ate it. And no matter how bad it was, I ate it. And there's times I'm like, oh, I'm going to go outside. And I would be throwing up in the trees in the backyard from her food. But I sat there with a smile the whole time eating it. And then I would go outside and throw up because it was so bad. And after like 5 years, I'm like, I can't do it no more. I can't eat it because I'm constantly throwing up in the woods. And she knows,
you're a good dude, man.
But I muscled through it with a smile on my face because I never, my ex-wife or nothing, I never had a home cooked meal. And I didn't have that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it was TV dinners or government cheese on bread. So
yeah,
fair.
We got Ellie saying, I really appreciate the panel's honesty and vulnerability, sending so much love to each of you. Adam says, real people, real topics, good stuff. I that's what we should have named the series. That's better than the crappy name that I came up with. Real people, real topics. Adam, I'm stealing that. You can't.
That is actually pretty good.
It is. It's way better than Let's Get Real. So congrats. I should change the name to that. Tony, you up for rebranding the street, the thumbnail? Tony's like, no. Tony always helps with my thumbnails because I could think I could create, but I'm not an artist. And Tony's always good at that stuff. So I always ask for Tony's help. Huge assist to Tony for that. And he never complains. But he did tell me it was going to be $25 from now on. So these stories have been so engaging that I have barely been commenting in the chat, but I've been watching the entire time. Ellie and I have you guys on the big screen. I think it's so cool. Ellie and Anthony live together now. I think it's awesome. I think that it's a good success story that we all need. I've missed these streams. Jeff says, nice reunion. Jeff, yo, Holland, what up, pal? Yep, Holland is here. Holland texted me because he wanted to watch the movie. My wife has kept me fees for almost 15 is there fees for almost 15 years? Feeding me was literally the first thing she ever did for me. Oh yeah, man. And I like to cook. So I think it's an attractive quality if a guy can cook too. On the flip side,
I'm a big breakfast guy. Every weekend, I love making breakfast.
I just need to find a woman that I can cook for.
I could eat breakfast food any meal though, so there's that.
Yeah.
You're welcome, and I'm here all week.
Yes.
If Tony's watching, I'm seriously gonna take that. Real people, real topics. It's better. Okay, let's see here. So I could jump into the questions. Let's see here, banners. It's been so long. All right, so I'll just go. Whoever wants to answer first can. I figured we, try and be live for another hour and a half or so if that works for everybody. Hopefully we can nail down everything in that time limit. I don't want to keep you guys here any longer than that, but I do want to get through the 8 questions, hopefully. So I'll start with what does depression feel like for you or look like for you? What does it mean to you, depression?
I've battled depression probably my entire life. I've had spats of my life where I felt like it was subsiding quite a bit, but just like Joe, I also tried to kill myself when I was in 6th grade. So for it to be that far back, it's kind of something I've always battled. And I spent more time with my mother, and she dealt with so much mental illness, like not like schizophrenia or anything like that, but she had bipolar, she had panic attacks, she had anxiety attacks, she had depression. She would take a handful of medications every single day. And just seeing her sometimes when she wouldn't have the medications, if something would happen with the pharmacy or insurance, and then she'd have to go weeks without it, and just seeing her like that, so I have had mental illness around my life for a long time. So unfortunately, the things that I went through and grew up with and stuff like that, it definitely put a big damper on my life. So yeah, it's just something that I've tried to, before I kind of would, I guess I had denial about it, that it's like, I don't have that kind of stuff, blah, blah. But it's like, once you start, again, the accountability that we talked about before, and just like realizing that it's not fake, it is real, and people do have this, and it can be something that you could work through, with work, but positive thinking, a lot of different kind of things. So it's a huge part of my life, and to be honest, I still battle with it. And for me, I mean, it goes anywhere. When I was younger, depression used to come out in a rage, like how we were talking about earlier. And then I've been like Joe, where I just disconnect myself from everybody before, and then I've been, to the point where I just feel like sleeping all day long with no motivation to do anything, things like that, man. So yeah.
Yeah. I would normally wait, but Vinicio just said something, and I have to share like what depression feels like to me. You talked about sleeping. So for me, I never struggled with depression the way I have this year. It was something I would have my moments. I think with a lot of people, go through it or struggle with it from time to time, not as bad as others. Everybody's experience is different. I know my sister Colleen, she struggles with like chronic depression really badly. I don't know what that feels like. This year, especially like getting back from Tennessee, people ask like, when did it start? I just fell into a place I was not proud of. Made poor decisions. I started having financial issues. And I got to a place this year that I was just like, I think it was since I moved out when I was 32, 2.5 years ago, I feel like I've gone backwards and I made a lot of mistakes. And instead it should have been, hey, you moved out. Like, that's a huge step in the right direction. It's a good, place to be. You got your own place. And I went backwards, and I got into trouble with money and started making poor decisions. I was late on credit cards. I had 100% payment history. I was never late on anything. And then I started to when I moved in, and just prioritizing the wrong things. But what does depression look like for me or feel like for me? I told Nikki today, it's hating myself so much that I'd rather sleep. I was sleeping in. I couldn't sleep anyways. And then when I finally did fall asleep, I didn't want to wake up because I hated myself so much. I didn't want to face the day. And I was telling Nikki, like, as a man, as a person, though, you've still got to face your life. You still got to face your day. Like, no matter what you're going through, landlord still got to get her rent due. Like, you got to pay rent. You got kids to feed. So you've got to find a way to suck it up and go through it. And that's how I shut everybody out. I was like, I'm going to go through it by myself. I'm going to shut everybody out. I got to suck it up. I got to do what I got to do. But that's what depression feels like. Like, it's different for everybody. And for me, it's not wanting to face yourself, just sleeping in, because if you sleep, that's the one place you're not facing yourself. You don't have to deal with who you are as a person. And I hated myself, and I'm still working on that. Like, when I hear people say I'm proud of you, I don't feel it myself. And I'm getting to the point, I'm trying to get to that point. And Vinicio asked me a few weeks ago or last week, like, what does that look like? Like, how do you get there? And I'm working on it. I'm working on getting to that point where I could see myself in the mirror and not hate who I'm staring at. And that's what depression felt like for me. So when you talked about sleeping, that's all you wanted to do at some point. That's what depression looked like for me. But that's all. I guess like an AA or something with that. That's all. Joe, I'll share pass to you.
All right. With me, depression. Nowadays, and it could be again my own craziness. I don't really get depressed as I did when I was younger, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't get depressed now. What I had back in the day, I look at now. I deal with more anxiety and stress. Sometimes like I said, I want my quiet place. I just want to be left alone and just wallow in myself. And like I've talked with Bob, when I'm sad, I like to watch sad things and I want to listen to sad music. I want everything around me to be the same. But when I was younger, I dealt with a lot of depression. Like I said, I tried to commit suicide when I was 8 years old, ended up with a lot of psychiatric doctors and ended up in a mental institution for a little bit because of how young I was. And, I dealt with bad family. I dealt with, I'm not even sure if I ever said this to Bob, but I had a grandfather that I was close with, and I came to find out that he was a pedophile, and I dealt with that in my life. So I dealt with drug dealers, a mother that was raped, a grandfather that was a pedophile, doing that stuff around me, and a grandmother that was super abusive to me and used to beat me all the time. So make me kneel. She was Spanish, so her thing was if I was bad, I had to kneel in the corner on cheese graters. So if I moved, I would scrape up my knees. That's why my knees are all scratched up. But that's what I dealt with. So I was constantly depressed when I was a kid. I feel like the way I am now, and it's like I said, a lot of it changed when I had my own kid. But I feel like nowadays I don't let myself get to that point because it's not just me anymore. I have a son, and that, like I said, is my number one priority. So I never let myself get into that dark place like I used to. Back when I was younger, like I told you, I wanted to hurt people. And my thing was I loved to fight. I got into so many fights. Anybody said anything to me, I had no problems of turning around and punching somebody in the face and jumping on them. And that was my thing. I had super anger issues from when I was a young kid to when I was almost 16 years old, even almost 20 years old. I was constantly fighting. I just loved to fight. So, and it's something that, I always looked at it as I never cared if I lived or die. If I got to see another day, I was shocked. But, I lived day to day back then. But now I look forward to a future because of my son. So it's just things that I have to look at in a different way with depression just because it's not just me anymore. So I just try to deal with the stress and I try to deal with anxiety of just day to day life and the things that we go through. But I just don't try. I don't try to, like I said, dwell in the past and let that depression creep up on me because of the things that I dealt with.
Yeah.
That's tight, man. Much respect, man. I relate to a lot of your stuff as well, man. Much respect, man.
Thank
Amen,
you.
brother.
Nikki.
I guess for me, depression's always been pretty manic for me. Like it's super highs and super lows, and I have to really watch myself because I get self-destructive with it. Like I will overdo like the whole working thing for the last few months. Is because I let my worries overpower me, and it can put me in a bad place. So if I stay home and I stay alone, it's way bad. And I mean, I have my brother here and I have my husband here, and so it's not like I'm alone, but I spend a lot of time alone when I'm at home. They're doing their things and they're busy, and so I go do something. And I've been on the go for so many months now, and I really just need to reel it in right now. So, because I'll be in a manic place in no time flat. So, trying to pull out of that before it gets bad.
I can
I
relate.
relate to that as well. Those
I
high
can-
highs and those low
Yep.
lows.
I was just gonna say the highs and the lows. I relate to the not the lukewarm thing, like being all in or all out. Like I relate to that because when I'm all in, like I get really depressed. I go into a dark place. But
Well, and then the roller coaster just gives me anxiety, and I'm like, oh, what the hell, And I just,
yeah, that roller coaster for sure. I will catch up with the chat and then we'll get into the next question here. Johnny said something about I tried to poison April.
While
Depression.
you do the chat, I'm going to run real quick.
Okay. Depression is a personal background. Melancholic time, a pause, lots of things to deal with, losing sleep, not giving a fuck sometimes, fighting against my ego, period. Yeah, and Prince, he reached out to me a couple months ago and we were talking, and sometimes you need that, I think like I want to get to a place where I could be there for other people, not just other people being there for me. I'd like to be able to help somebody else out. Like it's a good place. I like Bob sometimes. I told Bob sometimes I feel tired of being kind. He understood. Yeah, it's tough when you're just like feel like you always got to be nice or something. Sometimes you just maybe want to snap. I get that. I also told you I feel like an outcast sometimes, and Prince, I think a lot of us can feel that way. The title,
I would think we all do. Yep.
the title totally resonated with me. It's one battle after another, and the next and another. But you know what? That's life. It is. Like I said, I mean, I think it's okay to be vulnerable. I think we need to normalize. Vinicio, we talked about this when you and I were on the phone the one day. Like we need to normalize men being honest with each other, and let me tell you, it is so important as a man to have another man in your life to be able to turn to. And Vinicio, I had that with you, that one conversation we had, man, and that was one. It was unlike any conversation I had because you and I were just like, I've never had two men, me and another guy, like just break it down and be vulnerable like that. It was just unreal. You know what I mean? Like you got two grown ass men crying on the phone together. Sorry to share our business, but
It's all good, man.
it was like I needed it, man. I needed that, and I didn't know it was gonna happen. You know what I mean? But I needed that. I needed somebody that I could just break down with and just pour that shit out, man. It
I'm
takes
a firm believer, man, that everything happens for a reason, man. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And as long as we take all these negative lessons that we have and turn them into positive, like Joe did, he had these things happen to him and then he made it. My kids are never going to feel this. You have to turn all these negatives into positives because if we dwell on them, it's just going to destroy us even more. So we have to learn those lessons and move on.
And that's one of the things with this series. I was really hoping. I told Joe and Nikki when I was starting, I was like, I think it'll help the three of us. Like, you learn and move on from certain things, and just talking about certain topics, like opening up. I feel like it could help us, like to become, better versions of ourselves or whatever. Like, it doesn't hurt to talk and to be open, and that's why the series started. And like real topics, like Adam said, real people, real topics, not phony stuff. And don't get me wrong, I love having fun on the channel, game nights, joking around, raunchy comedies, inappropriate humor. But at the end of the day, like I want to be real. I want real conversations. That's what I like. And
I was gonna say, like what Benicio said, for the reason I had a kid so long, even when I met Marie, I told her I never wanted to have kids just because I didn't think I can get over everything that happened. When I did a stream a long time ago with Plaid and I started talking about the things that happened to me, he's like, and I told him then, I'm like, I never wanted to put my problems onto my kid or create the same cycle of what happened to me to happen to him. And it's just like, I had to man up and, again, put my son first and put my issues behind me to try to make a better life for my son. And sometimes you just have to do that, and you have to man up and find a way out of your funk to not do those things, and
There's thi-
I went through a time.
and put your problems onto somebody else.
there's
I
things that
went
are
I
bigger.
went through a time where I bled on my children pretty hard, and I would say I still feel guilt for it. They don't hold any resentment to me for it, like as they grew up with me because I was so young when I had them. It was a learning experience that I had to explain to them as I grew through it. And so I brought them through this journey with me. And it wasn't just my two sons, it was my husband's son as well. And they all live very different lives, but I think they all got a plain, open eye view of what it looks like to grow through depression and anxiety and fear and all these painful things that you go through. And I've always been extremely honest with my kids. I'm extremely honest with strangers half the time because it's just who I am. But I I don't even know where I'd be now if it weren't for my kids, because I healed through them more than I harmed them, I hope.
You know,
But
Nick, you said you said you want to grow, growing through that anxiety, that depression, things like that. I heard a quote once and I loved it. It's one of my favorite quotes, is grow through what you go through.
that's it.
And
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
think
that's a good one.
I think it's so good. And hearing Nikki say that, I was like, she just said it. Like, and then to piggyback on Joe's comment, I think we need to find something that's bigger than us. Because when we go through something and you're all alone and you don't have anybody else, your why is only about you, it's easy to give up. It's easy to throw in the towel. But when you got something bigger than you at stake, when it's about more than just you, I can't give up. I've got a son and I've got a wife. I got to keep going. And so for Joe, he says, like, everything's about his son. What's his why? His son. It's going to keep him going no matter what he goes through in life. He has to do for his son. And I think when you have something that's bigger than you, it's easier to keep going. When it's about you, it's easy to give up because you don't have a why that's big enough to keep going.
You don't have a purpose.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Like, I think it's so important to find your why and have your why be big enough that when you go through something so catastrophic, it's going to pull you through. It's going to keep you going through. And that was
Well,
something I went back when I was at the gym and everything. It was always important figuring out my why and then helping my clients figure out their why.
well, it's similar, to go back to even to this movie of, one of the things, it's like, a lot of times you do that one step forward, but something will bring you 6 steps back. But you have to find a way to it's like when we talked the other day, even as long as you set goals for yourself of different things to try to make yourself better, even if you don't achieve that goal in a day, a month, a year, as long as there's baby steps and there's some type of progression that you're like, it's that whole, like that kid's book, I think I can, I think I can. It's just like, as long as there's forward momentum, even if you fall back and you're like, this happened to me, but I'm just going to keep on striving and keep on trying to at least move that needle a little bit forward. A lot of times it's going to make you better because
Yeah.
you feel like you accomplished something, even if it's not what your end goal was. As long as you have something there to say, you know, I survived another day and I did this one little thing, sometimes that just has to be good enough. And a lot of people, a lot of times, don't look at that like it's good enough.
I really like that, Joe, because I think it is important to see. I always talk about failure and failure. But I hear a lot of people, like motivational speakers or whatever it may be, will talk about, I didn't necessarily fail. It just took me. It doesn't matter if it takes you a year or 10 years, as long as you get there. And then I also hear the whole, like, quitting is not okay. Like you finish what you start. When I saw the movie The Senior recently, it's like a faith-based movie, but true story. And he was like, I finish what I start. Like if I start something, I have to finish it. And I think that's so important for me, Joe, talking about like setting goals. When I quit my 50 miler, I mean, yes, I quit and I failed it. I DNF'd, but 6 years later, I went and finished it. And I don't necessarily like, yeah, that failure, that quitting hurts, but going out and always striving to finish it, it meant a lot to be able to be like, okay, I have to finish that one day. Like you finish what you start. Like it might not have been that night that I finished it, but I went back and I finished it 6 years later.
Yeah, it's similar to what you were saying, like with that Highlander race. You know, even though you finished dead last, you finished it. Even if you didn't finish that race, you know, if you only did the 26.2 miles, it's like, you know, I didn't finish the race, but I got this part done. And then maybe next year I can do the 26.2 and one obstacle or three obstacles. As long as you're constantly
Effort.
fighting to make yourself better. That's all, you know, that's all you can ask for yourself. You
Any
can't always look
improvement is a
at I
complete.
failed. You got to look at it as I did a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know, I love the saying I tried is okay. So it's I wrote it down, but
It's like sometimes trying is good enough or something like that.
what did he say? He said, I tried is 1,000. I failed is 10 times more of a man than what if, because what if never went to the arena. And I love that quote because I just think it is so true. I failed is 10 times better than what if I never tried. At least you tried. You might have fallen short, but at least you tried because that's way better than never showing up and trying at all.
Well, like in the way back when she comes to see him in the rehab, and he says that his worst thing was that he failed his son by not being there for his mother. He knows that's where he lacked. That's what he's been so guilty of. That's, you know, and all she really wants is for him to own that and be able to move through it. Because I don't think she's done with him. Like, she just wants him to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he where he feels like he failed her, he was just drowning in it, and drowning in it, and drowning in it.
We were actually
Yeah.
talking about that, Bob, not too long ago, about forgiving yourself, you know? And
Yeah.
it's a trip because I never really thought of that, man. And I guess there are still things that I don't forgive myself for. So I understand that as well, you know?
That is one of the hardest. I think it's so much harder than forgiving others is forgiving yourself. At least for me, it was always, maybe for some people that's the easy part. That was always the hard part, forgiving myself. Some of the hardest things, man. I was just like, how could I forgive myself? I'll catch up with the chat and we'll move into the next question. It takes its toll, right, Bob? Yep. You are such a loving, kind, supporting person, Prince, and compassionate person, Hun. Being kind in such a effed up and ugly world is hard sometimes, my love. I'm always here if you need me, Hun. And Caprice is always on Instagram. Prince, reach out. Love the stream tonight. Head to my little one's game. We'll catch it later. I'm sure he'll send me some videos. Let's see. You saw my post, Bob. Proud wheelchair user. Always will be. I did see that post. Appreciate that, Caprice. Johnny says depression. That bastard who shows up and never really leaves. Fucker still visits me, and without April and you guys in the community, I don't know where I'd be. Yeah, and he
Love you, Johnny.
You know, you think of an anchor. I mean, April was that for Johnny, and then some. I mean. And I get it. Like getting to know April, let me tell you, like she is amazing. She was another one that was reaching out, and so was Johnny separately, individually. And I just shut them all out. And I look back on it now, and it's like I'm sure I hurt people by doing that, you know. And I apologize to anybody I hurt that I shut out like that. But let me tell you, like April and Johnny were there as well, and I fucking adore April. She's amazing. Jeff says 100%. Allie, hashtag people care. Sometimes in life, we need to be pulled back in order to spring forward. Like a slingshot. I like that a lot. The Senior. Yep, I like that movie. Bob is back next year on the course. Good for you. Proud of all of you for showing up and talking about these very human emotions and experiences. It's conversations like this that help us get through the dark times. Yeah, and for me, it's like I said in the beginning, I don't want somebody to look at me and be like, I'm out looking for sympathy or it's a pity party or anything like that. It's a real topic, real issues. that you got to go through, and I think it's okay to talk about them. But I also understand that as a man too, it's not okay to give up and throw in the towel.
Well,
That
that's why I
and
said we could talk about depression first. We'll get the heavy hitter out of the way, and then we have a whole list of emotions and topics to go through. So it's okay.
Yeah.
And honestly,
that
I feel like this is just so progressive, not just for us, but hearing other people and our vulnerability and what we're talking about. Hopefully, like how you were saying earlier, Bob, it creates a more open dialogue for people to feel more comfortable about talking about their feelings, about seeking help, about doing things to help their progression instead of staying stuck either in that or doing stuff to make it worse, you know? So I feel like it's all around a positive.
that
Amen.
and I was going to say a lot of times, you know, it's something that a lot similar to me. It's somebody that really can't talk about it. And a lot of times it's when, you know, there could be people in the chat or other people that watch this later on that are going through things that we went through. And it's like sometimes
Mhm.
knowing that you're not alone out there, sometimes that's just sometimes it's good just to hear other people's stories, even though you can't reach out to somebody and talk to somebody about it. Sometimes just hearing what other people went through, or just that there's other people dealing with the same things out there, sometimes you don't feel as bad. It's like I told uh, Bob a long time ago. This is kind of funny, but it's funny to me at least. When I was younger and I was going through a lot of shit, I used to love watching Jerry Springer to go, at least I'm not that bad. And I used to go,
Oh
at least
God.
my life isn't that bad. And I always looked at it as, you know, there's people out there worse than me, you know, and if they can deal with that stuff, then maybe I can deal with the stuff that's not as bad as what they went through. And maybe I can be a little bit stronger. So, you
Yeah.
know, sometimes, you know, when I used to go through that stuff, I used to try to search out for things that were worse than what I was going through. So at least it made me feel better about my situation.
I always
Yeah.
try to understand two things. Somebody's always got it way worse than me. A lot of people have it way worse than me, no matter what I'm going through or how bad I think it is. And then number two, I never want to undermine or dismiss anyone else's situation, because no matter how bad or whatever it may be that I think it is or what they think it is, everybody is going through something. You never know what it is, whether that's something serious or if they're a great place in their life. You never know what someone's going through.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
Very
some
true.
and some people just don't have the strength to deal with what you've dealt with. So maybe something that you wouldn't think is as bad as really you're upset about that, but to them it might be something. It's something that they deal with a lot differently than something, because you've dealt with more that you can take with you know, with no disregard.
Everyone's tolerance is at a different level. Yeah.
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 And that was one of the big things I told all three of you, really, was Vinicio in particular, when we were talking about it. Like, I wanted to start something that was real and could help us, but also others. I wanted to make a difference. I've always wanted to make a difference. It's what it's about for me. I like having fun and doing game nights, and I think that's all important. I think it has a space here, but I also think there's a space for this. And that's what I wanted to do. Now, like I said, there's like 7 more questions, so I'm going to try and breeze through them at least as fast as possible. I also got to use the washroom. But I'll ask this question and I'm going to run really quick. In what ways were you able to relate to Jack? So Ben Affleck's character, in what ways were you able to relate to Jack? And I'll put that up and I'll be back. Joe,
Benicio, you go first if you
So
can.
I think I related to him in multiple ways, you know, kind of. Did I recollect? Am I recollecting correct? Did his child died and she cheated on him right after? Correct?
I don't think she cheated on him right after. I think the
Yeah.
relationship with the new guy was later on, after they'd been separated for some time.
But they were
I
still married, though, right?
yes, they were
Hmm.
still married
Yeah.
all the way up to the end of the movie.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you
So
know, I relate a lot to his story. You know, the way that he was kind of lashing out on his family. You know, I've been there. I've done that. Unfortunately, the kind of denial and non self-reflection that he kind of has, you know, and not realizing that really all it takes is just to ask for help, or to you know, or let somebody care for him, so he could try to help himself. You know, I've been there also, kind of like you said earlier, Joe. Like I would not let anybody help me. I would not let people know my worries and stresses and things that made me depressed, you know, and I would keep it to myself. So, and then you obviously have negative outlets that you do with, that kind of comes as a spiral effect. So a lot of that I relate to. You know, it's a part of the movie too that I really like, you know, is when the priest called him and asked him to come and coach for the team. The way his curiosity just lit up there, was, I thought and I was hoping that they would go in more of an aspect that he kind of found God after that, because that's kind of what happened to me. And I feel like, you know, with that, that's what changed my life now, you know, is finding God and looking at life in a completely different way than I did before. And I was very stubborn with it before, and I was very negative with it before. And I'm just trying to flip that script completely, because that life just wasn't working for me. So, you know, I'm trying to a new life, because I feel like it's a better fit, to be honest. But yeah, you know, so it's I relate to a lot of those things like that. So it was really cool to see it in that aspect, actually.
I don't. It doesn't matter who goes next, Nikki. If you want to talk, or Joe, or whatever, it doesn't
I
matter.
was gonna say I can go next. The parts that I related to him a lot is just pretty much the anger that he had with everybody. I like that, you know, the whole once he started coaching and everything, he started bettering his life. I look at it similar to, that's something that I related to. Again, with my son, that I found something that I loved enough to try to make my life better for my son and better for myself. And again, just, you know, my biggest thing with this movie is the with the anger thing. A lot of it, since I didn't do alcohol or anything like that, I never related to any of that. But a lot of it, that with him pushing people away, with problems that he was having in his relationship, you know, I look at it a lot similar to a lot of things that I dealt with relationships with, like, half sisters that I had. I never had like full brothers, but I had a lot of. I got like 8 or 9 half sisters and brothers, but I pretty much disowned any of my family that didn't leave me, that stuck around. I pretty much wrote them off and disowned every single one of them, and I've never talked to them since, in over 20 years, just because I pushed it. Like I said, I pushed everybody. Any family that still talked to me, I found anything to destroy it, and pretty much never talked to them again. I just, and you know, a lot of that I look at it from that movie of pretty much how he was just acting. So it's things that I think about a lot of times, but again, I try not to dwell too much in the past, and it's fences that I don't think I'll ever mend. But it's, you know, so be it. It's a mistake that I
I
made.
have a lot of that myself. I've pushed a lot of people out because I felt judged, and if you're gonna judge me, I don't want you in my presence. And so I got shunned for some things when I was younger. I was kind of a real mouthy, rough teenager, and I was a drunk most of the time when I was a teenager. So by the time that I stopped drinking and got my act together, everybody already judged me. So there wasn't a lot of that I couldn't reconnect.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot with me. It's I'm I'm not gonna say judgmental, but I'm very. I usually, once somebody breaks my trust, I'm the type of person that I never give it back, and I'll literally disown anybody for it. So when half sisters started acting like my dad and started getting into drugs, and I had other I mean, trust me, the crazy stories that I can't tell on here because of YouTube guidelines with sisters
Right.
and things that they did, and they went to jail for it when they were a teenager and all this stuff. But let's just say I didn't want that stuff around me. Even with my ex-wife. My ex-wife got into drugs, and when I found out, I divorced her and gave her everything just to get away from her because I didn't want to deal with that stuff. And it's just like I can, usually if I see a red flag flying, I'm running the other way and I'm throwing bombs to get it away from me as quick as possible.
Right.
And I don't look back. So it's, some of the things that I saw in this, I kind of relate to of things that he did, that it's just like things that I've done in the past that, you know, I would probably do differently now as, that I'm older and with a son now. Maybe I wouldn't, just because again, I wouldn't want those people around my son. So,
Yeah, see, and me,
I
me, man, I've cut off a lot of people too, and family as well. But mine is like, just I never have people that are loyal to me, you know. So it's like even my family has just done me dirty so many times, you know, for close friends and stuff like that. So it's just like that's one thing you can't come back from, you know. I've had it done to me too many times, and I'm too much of a loyal person that it's just
yeah,
like, you know, I can't have that in my life because I'm just the opposite of that. So.
yeah, I've dealt with that as well. I've had
Mhm.
a sister that I tried to help out, and I tried to give her a better life and everything else, and left and right, she constantly broke my trust until I gave up on her. So it's just like, sometimes you just got to move forward and just forget, family or not.
You have to
Sometimes
self protect.
sometimes you gotta cut your ties, and that's why, I tell
We need
Maria
to
all
make
the time.
sure.
I'm like, I worry about her and my son, and I can't worry about anything else or anybody else. I gotta think of what's around me. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
That's
just,
your
it is what
defense
it is.
mechanism.
Yeah, it's the way I've always lived my life, is in survival mode since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I still live that way in a survival mode. That I just worry about what's around me, and if anything goes wrong, I'm quick to react to fix it, protect it, or get it away from me.
Yep, you're so right.
Yeah.
Nikki, did you want to add to that, or in what ways you were able to relate to Jack? I know you touched on something Joe said.
Well, the numbing, the numbing.
Mm.
Yeah, that's probably where a lot of my drinking came from. Was to just numb the things that were going on around me. I spent a lot of time just figuring out ways to not be at home as a teenager, so I could be someplace where I could get access to the alcohol and just numb myself, and you know, it just, yeah. I don't like to. I don't I don't drink today. I have a drink here and there, but I don't drink to numb, and I haven't done that in more than 30 years. So,
It's awesome. Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I was going to ask you, Nikki, since you still drink, you don't ever worry about ever falling back into that habit? Because usually,
No, because
like,
I mean,
similar
like,
to, not to throw Bob's dirty laundry out there, but, since he had a problem with alcohol, a lot of times you just got to cut that off and not go back
um,
to it because you might fall into it.
I
I'm
did
just
for a long
curious.
time. I did for a long time, just cut it completely out. Um, but if I have a drink now, it might be 3 beers, it might be 1 beer, and I don't have to have any more. But
So you just
literally,
have the self control for it.
I might drink once a year.
Okay.
I might have a drink once a year. I prefer to have a mixed drink. So if I'm drinking a beer, it's just it's usually just a fluke if I'm drinking a beer. But
Yeah.
no, I don't. I just don't drink anymore. It's just not. I don't find it to be. as relaxing as it used to be.
Enjoyable.
No need for it.
Um,
And it's a false numbing, just like pain pills.
mhm.
When I went to go have a surgery back in 2001, I got to where I really liked Vicodins, and I was like, yeah, I don't want to start with those. So as soon as the surgery was over, I chucked that shit because it was a new numbing, and I liked it, and I didn't want to like it.
I've
So
gotten addicted to Vicodin.
That's one thing that again, because my dad was a drug dealer and he was, you know, a pot smoker and then went to angel dust and cocaine and heroin. I was always, and he was a drinker. I was always worried about any of that stuff. That I felt like, you know how they say, like, you know, if your parents are alcoholics, you'll become an alcoholic because it's in your genes. When all the years, like when I had a bad motorcycle accident and I was out of work for almost a year, I had morphine needles in the house. I had Percocets, Valiums, Oxy. I've never taken anything. Even like recently, I had Percocets in the house, and you know, I never took it. I had the prescription. I just threw it away. I'm so scared to take anything stronger than a Tylenol.
right,
I've always dealt with the pain because you know,
and I don't
Bob.
even like Tylenol.
No, Bob. When I ended up in the hospital for 9 days and I had all that medication, it's just like I never took it. I was scared to take it. I'm just like, give me Tylenol. Or a lot of times when I was in the hospital, I'm like, they're like, oh, you want Tylenol? I'm like, nope. I have a high threshold for pain just because I don't take medication. That
Same.
I just muscle through the pain of the stuff, and if it's not Tylenol, I don't do it.
You know,
Well, and
when I was
because I know how easily I can get into that place, and again with the addictive personality, I know how easy it is just to, and beer's cheap, man. You can go buy beer and you can be drunk every day like that. That would be an easy out all the time for me. And the worst part is I like it. So, that's I have no need for it anymore. But like I have 5 brothers, and my dad was an alcoholic, and all 5 of my brothers and myself have all at one time or another been alcoholics. I was talking to my sister-in-law, my oldest brother. He's much, much older than I am, and his wife is older, And so as we connected and got to know each other, we're talking on the phone one day, and she says, well, do you drink? And I said, no. She didn't, she just kind of hesitated and went on about the conversation. A few weeks later, she asked me again. She said, do you drink? I said, you just asked me that, and I told you no. And she said, well, I just find it very hard to believe that you have, there's 6 of you and all 5 of your brothers drink and you don't. Or all 5 of your brothers are alcoholics and you're not. I said, now you did not ask me if I was an alcoholic, because I would have told you yes. You asked me if I drank, and the answer is no, because I choose not to.
when Joe had said the Vicodin, and Nick, you talked about Vicodin, the numbing. I went to the dentist. This was 6-7 years ago, and I had gotten addicted. This was prior. I had gotten addicted to Vicodin. It was not hard to get addicted either. I was popping them, and got the refill and everything like that. And oh my gosh, I took too many one day, but I loved the feeling. I loved, make me numb. And I went to the dentist a couple of years after that, and my dentist bill was like, I'm going to give you some Vicodin for the pain, whatever. I had a tooth pulled or something. I was like, I can't take Vicodin. He's like, all right. I was like, I'll just use Advil because that's all I'll take. And I was like, I knew if I had taken it, how quickly I could get addicted like that. So I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I've watched too many people overdose on different types of drugs. That was real prevalent where I grew up at. And so, no, I never really wanted to do any of the drugs, but the drinking, it was easy. I might have been 12 or 13 years old, and we had a little shop down the street that if you went in through the back door and you left through the back door, he'd sell you anything in his store. So, cases of beer were easy to get, tons and tons, a weekend. It didn't even matter. So I spent a lot of time Very young, very drunk.
Yeah. I'm gonna touch on it in what ways I could relate to Jack, and then we'll move on to the chat and then the next question. I got like an hour before it hits 3 hours. Still got a lot of questions. How you guys doing? You doing okay?
We're
I'm
good.
doing good.
Okay, Vinicio, I know you're sitting down on a bed and everything. You're back okay and all that. So
Yeah, no, I'm good.
okay, all right. So for me, I can relate to Jack because when he says I spent a lot of time, I made a lot of bad decisions, a lot of regrets, and he's talking about his dad and everything, and I could relate to hurting myself by turning to addictions and things that I knew weren't good for me, and that's everything from alcohol to women to gambling, especially, to you name it. And I turned to it, and it was almost like to numb the pain or to hurt myself. And there's a scene, and Nikki mentioned it when he's talking to his wife. I never stopped being angry. I wrote that down too, and I think for me, a lot of people like my mom and sisters say you need anger management, and that pisses me off when I hear that. Right. Also, I think Mizzy at one point said that, and it pissed me off, and it pisses me off when I hear that. It's like, well, look, I guess the irony in that. But yeah, not moving on with your life, seeing the world in dark ways, and I think that's me too. And so I can relate to Jack by being lonely, being alone, shutting people out, kind of. He's just all alone, and I think there's a scene where his wife talks to him, I worry about you being all alone. And that's me, and I struggle with that at times, and then I turn to certain things that I shouldn't, and I made a lot of mistakes in my life like Jack has, and so those are ways I can relate to Jack, unfortunately. Yeah, okay, let's see if I can catch up on the chat here. There's like 6 comments. Let me get to these really quick. Okay, I think we saw this one. Yep. Vinicio, what's your girlfriend's name?
Amy.
Okay. Now I know, so I could read that. Please talk about The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Ellie showed me that movie for the first time a few weeks ago, and I absolutely loved it. So I think I had mentioned it that was going to be the movie Perks of Being a Wallflower tonight, but I got it saved for anxiety, which will work. The four
I don't
of
think
you,
I've seen that one either.
The Perks of Being a Wallflower is like top 10 favorite movie of all time for me. So I saw Ellie and Anthony watched it, and then I always look to see if it says watched or rewatched, and I was like, oh, that was a first time watch for Anthony. I was like, and I think he gave it 4.5 or 5. I was like, good man. The 4 of you on the panel are strong survivors, and we're all glad you're here. That you matter. Thank you. And it's important to hear you matter. It's very important.
Appreciate that.
Sometimes it's hard, but at a point you need to protect your own peace and mental health. Bree says, Bob, make me smile. Tell everybody what I do every time I see you. Log a movie on your letterbox would make my day. Appreciate that, Prince. I always appreciate the support. That means a lot, Prince. And Mommy Nix, thank you for calling my name like a son every time you are in the chat. It means a lot every time you do that.
Aw.
Joe,
You're so supportive. You're always there, dude. We thank you.
Joe, what would you tell 20-year-old you?
Things will get better. That's all. To keep it short and sweet.
Things will get better.
Yeah,
it's important to hear that, and it's hard to hear. It's hard to believe it, though. There's other fish in the sea. There's other women. You'll fall in love again or something. So you don't want to hear that in the moment, but it is true. Things will get better. Hang on. Don't give up. Okay, I'm gonna get the next question rolling. Have you ever turned to alcohol or any other drug to cope with your depression? You guys want me to kick this one off?
hit it.
Okay.
All right.
I think we've all touched on it, but
yeah. I mean, for sure. For me, when I was 20, 21, it was alcohol. I didn't drink for long, but I knew I had a problem. I was a mean drunk. I got in a lot of fights. I did a lot of things I regretted, and I was an addict, and I knew if I didn't stop, it was going to become a real problem. And as my dad will tell you to this day, if I didn't quit drinking, I wouldn't be alive today. I've absolutely done it. Gambling has been a big one. Always just turning to different things when whatever it is, it's like your drug of choice, as I wrote down or whatever. So, I've turned to a lot of things that aren't good when I'm struggling or lonely or something like that. Loneliness, turn to things, and yeah, I mean, there needs to be better ways and healthier outlets that you find when you're struggling, and whether that's talking to somebody or whether that's a book or a song or a movie or whatever it is, there needs to be healthy outlets in your life. Things that can help anchor you down or escape, or you could turn to. And it doesn't always need to be a person. It could be a thing.
Yeah, I miss reading.
Okay. Nikki, well, I'll let you go next. You go ahead.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time when I was very young, just trying to find someplace to be that was what I thought was safer than the house I was growing up in. Little did I know that I saw more damage in my best friend's house than I ever saw in my own house. So that was a different outlook on it. But yeah, the drinking, the pot smoking when I was young, which was stupid because I didn't really smoke pot as a kid. I did that as an adult. So long after I quit drinking, like I went years and didn't do anything. And so it was weird how that played out. But yeah, the drinking got me into some trouble. Just stupid things. Nothing too major. But for a 14, 15-year-old kid, and you're being sent to go live at grandma's house, and then, when I'm there, rest his soul, got to see my grandfather get drunk and pull a big scene, and that wasn't how we drank, so I didn't realize his was as bad as mine was going to get. So that was an eye-opener. It didn't stop me, but it woke me up to some things. Yeah. And to this day, I still miss drinking. I still want to drink it every day, but I don't need it. And I mean, would I say I want to drink every day? No, I want to escape every day still. So that might be still a problem with the depression. So
I feel that to my core. Those moments.
Yeah, so I've definitely used it as a coping mechanism. I started doing hard drugs at 13 or 14, and it literally did nothing but make my life even worse, because then when you're on those drugs that I was on, it really um, changes the brain structure of the way you think, the way you live, the way everything, and I just didn't care at all at that time. And Joe, I think you said something before about you didn't care if you lived or died. That's how I was, just doing whatever I wanted. And I never expected to be as old as I am right now. Let's put it that way. I really expected to die young, and I didn't care about that. And it was all, I was already from depression, but then once I started drugs, it actually made it even more depressing because I just didn't care anymore. So yeah, definitely have used that as an outlet before for depression. Luckily,
yeah, it's like
now
living with the throttle down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo,
But all that is out of my life, but I do smoke marijuana, and I love that.
Right.
I was gonna say, for me, I've never done drugs or drank. My only thing I ever did is smoke, and I use that more as a stress, and to, like, when I get angry and stuff like that, to calm myself down. It's kind of my zen to do anything. In my 20s, the only other thing that and some people have issues with this, it's I used to eat. I would constantly eat when I was depressed. And when I was all the way up until I was 22 years old, I was 165 pounds, 7% body fat. Within 2 years, I hit 299 pounds. And I said, if I hit 300, I'm going to lose weight. I hit 300. And within 6 months, I went onto a prison diet, as I called it. And to the point of that, if I moved too fast, I would get dizzy and fall on the floor. But in 6 months, I got all the way back down to 185 pounds and 13% body fat by starving myself because I didn't want to be that big. But because I needed to because I didn't gamble or anything like that, I needed to find ways to uh, deal with the stuff that I was dealing with and try to find something that I needed as an escape. And back then, I didn't. I watched movies on cable and stuff like that, but I wasn't deep into them. Back then, I still played drums in the bands, and I was a musician until I had my accident. But that's the things that I got lost in. Those were the addictions that I used as a coping mechanism. So little by
And you're
little,
right. I didn't even think about food. That's true.
Yeah.
I've done that too.
Yeah, food addiction's a real thing. When I went to Celebrate Recovery, there was a lot of people there for food addiction. It's a real thing. Probably not many people talk about, like you said. Let's see. I'm gonna catch up with the chat here. We'll move on to the next question. Yeah, he gave it 5 stars. We'll talk about perks for sure. It could have worked for depression. And the thing with like the topics and then choosing the movie, there are movies that could work for like The Way Back could have worked for addiction 100% super easily. It could have worked for grief as well. And then, the Perks of Being a Wallflower could work for anxiety, and that's where we're doing anxiety. So there's definitely, like, when you think about a movie, there's usually multiple themes or topics you could discuss. Sorry you didn't like the Outrun with, I did not like that. But Joe, that was my pick, and Joe didn't like it either. I don't think Joe liked it more than I did. Mama Nikki, I'm so proud of you and love you so much. I'm so happy you're. Amy does. Yeah, there's that name. Question for all of you: what song would you describe your past life? Me, Paralyzed by NF. Easily.
I was ready. I was gonna say that, or what was the first one? First one that came to my house, or this, and again, and because we've talked about it, it's NF. How can you leave us?
Oh, that's a powerful one. Happy is another one for me. Happy or paralyzed? What would it be like?
That would be mine.
Yeah, look at that. 2 NFs right there. It tells you all you need to know about NF.
It's a song I listen to and I cry to.
Yeah, I bet.
Because it relates. It hits hard.
For you especially. How about you, Vinicio? Think of one?
I can't think of one that describes my whole life, but there's like one that when I was on drugs and on the streets and stuff like that, it's probably a song that, obviously nobody's ever heard of it, but there's a rapper named BG Evil, and he had a song called Late Night, and it was him rapping to the devil, and the devil was rapping back to him, and it was because of the drugs that he was on and staying up all night and hearing voices and stuff like that. And it's crazy because the stuff that he was talking about is that lifestyle, like, completely, and it's a very crazy lifestyle being involved in that stuff. So I would say that describes that time in my life, which was a very long time ago, very well, but I don't know about my entire life.
Yeah, it's tough. How about you, Nikki?
Yeah, I think I have different songs for different parts of my life.
Yeah.
But the one I always go to that's like, if I want to really just rage on something and be pissed about something in my past, it's going to be Alanis Morissette's You Ought to Know.
I feel like I've heard that. I've had two of. Jeff loves NF too. Mad respect for you, Jeff. Mad respect. All right.
He
next.
was raised right.
All right, I got that one out. Okay, so I think there's 5 questions left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we'll try and bust through them. Some are maybe related. I hope you don't mind the questions so far.
No.
How has depression? I'll put it on the screen. How has depression affected your relationship with others around you? And some of these, like I said, we probably already discussed briefly on. But Nikki, I don't think you've gone first. If you want to touch on this.
When I first got with my husband, I was deep, like undeserving of having love, deep in depression. And I bled all over him for a lot of years, but he was a trooper. He came through it. So, and he still doesn't like to see me depressed. He's dealt with some depression of his own now, so now I think he feels it and understands it more than when we were young, because he didn't let depression in. He dealt with it with anger. So now I think it's to the point where we've grown to understand each other so much. We're each other's backbone. So I think that's a positive that's come out of my depression is he had to see me go through it in order to grow with me to get there. So
Everything happens for a reason. Now is to bring you guys closer together, the bond.
30 years in, he ain't getting out of it, even if he don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know Jeff. He's a big fan of Tony as well. I know you've always talked about Jeff has a great relationship with them too, which is great. I don't Vinicio.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it's affected a lot of relationships because I've only met my tattoo guy probably understands my mind kind of, and then Bob, you understand my things that I tell you also. But other than that, there hasn't been really too many people to understand it, so it's affected it in that way, and then starts to make me feel like, damn, am I really that hard to understand? Like that I'm feeling this way, and somebody doesn't, understand it or know kind of any ideas of what to do, and that's what's honestly pretty cool about my relationship now. Is like I don't even have to explain myself. It's like, man, she understands me really well. So that's a very relieving thing, man, and a kind of a big weight off my shoulders, because I've just went through life, the majority of life, where 95% of the people just do not get me, and I feel like a complete outcast because of that. So it's always amazing to have people that understand you. So yeah, it affected it in the way that people just don't get it.
She gets it, which is awesome, man.
She is.
So for me, I'd say I lashed out. Depression, especially this year, struggling with it. It affected relationships because I shut people out. I was angry. And I hated myself. And I think with that depression, I didn't know how else to handle it. And there was times I would lash out. There was times I'd get frustrated. I didn't want to hear from somebody. I was going through something, and then you're bothering me. And then I just either ignored you, or I in some cases, I'd take it out on you. And yeah, I think I don't know. I feel bad looking back on it now, like shutting people out for a few months there, probably, Johnny reached out April, and it's not, I understand. And I do agree with people taking breaks and shutting down. I think that's okay. I don't think it's a bad thing, but me shutting people out completely and not letting them know I was okay, I look back on it now and I'm like, that wasn't okay. And, it also brought people into my life. Like Vinicio has been there for years, but we weren't always super close. I think Vinicio and I's relationship is very interesting because I look at Vinicio as a person I'm very close with, but because we don't talk all the time, and I'm like that. I go weeks without talking to people. But when Vinicio and I talk, it's deep. Like it's real stuff about real topics, and there's no bullshit with it. Like we're gonna get deep and we're gonna discuss some really tough hitting topics, and we open up. I feel like I can be myself and vulnerable around Vinicio, which is extremely important. And there was that. So I think, like, you talked, Nikki said it helped with her relationship with her husband in a way, and now he's stuck with her. And you said, everything happens for a reason. I think when I was going through it and I kind of shut everybody out and I was only talking to Joe, and then there was that time, Vinicio, where I was kind of sitting on the floor and going through movies I was going to sell, and we were talking in that conversation. So like that was a good effect. That was something that affected the relationship in a good way of those around me, because it brought us closer.
Yep.
But I think it could hurt people when I shut out people and I don't let them know that I'm okay. I think it's okay to shut down and let people know you need space, but I think you need to let people know you're okay.
Yeah, a text message takes 2 seconds.
Yeah, I know. And freaking,
You know, it's weird though, because I've been in those depressions though, where it's like even though it takes 2 seconds, it feels like it's so much draining effort to even try sometimes. I
Yeah.
have been there before where I just don't even want to respond, talk, explain, even somebody even know what emotions I'm feeling. I can't deal with it. There's just too much going on up in here, you know? So
yeah,
I've been there before too, and I understand how that is.
I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to talk about it. And I thought shutting people out was the best way to do it. And I also thought, hey, I got to go through this by myself. I just got to go through it, and nobody's going to help me, and nobody cares. It doesn't matter. As a guy, nobody cares. Like, I just got to do this shit on my own. That's basically my mindset. It was my mindset. And yeah. Joe, how about you, man?
I'm gonna say pretty much everything that all of you have talked about is things that I've done with the shutting out and everything. Pretty much anybody pre 10 years ago, I've literally shut every single person out of my life from, and a lot of times it's just I want to be by myself, and I want to deal with it alone. I don't want to deal with anybody else's other people's just their projection onto me of what am I going through or anything like that. So it's just I just shut everybody out. And I've tried like I said, in the last 10 years, I've tried to get better with it once I started YouTube and everything, and I try to do better with that. But for pretty much all my life, I've done that over and over. It's just a rinse and repeat. So I've dealt with all that with just shutting everybody out. And I always felt like I was fine. I always said I was fine being alone.
Yeah.
That's why I have very few friends, because I really have a hard time letting people in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I'm the same way. I have a strong outside shell. I'm like an M&M. I have a strong outside shell, but once you get to know me and I trust you, I'm very, very, very loyal, and I'll bend over backwards for anybody. But once you break that, then that's it.
Yeah, Joe's been there for me. I don't have a hard time letting people in, but I will say that I keep my group small.
Yeah.
So the people that are in my life, I could probably count on one hand. Like and I know it sounds very harsh and very mean, but I differentiate a Joe and Nikki, a Tony, versus somebody that I talk to on Instagram once every couple of weeks. Hey, how are you doing? And it's no disrespect, but I consider people like that like almost like social media friends. I have great conversations with them. I'm not discounting that or anything like that. But then, we don't text. You know what I mean? Like I remember Laren a while back when we were talking, I was like, I have very few people I'm close with. And he had said to me, he's like, we're close, right? And I was like, no, we're not. And he was like, dang, and he's like, I thought we were, Bob. And I was like, no, I mean, we talk like hardly, man. Like we don't talk much. I was like, it sounds mean. I was like, but dude, there's very few people that I view as like that I'm very close with, that I would call at 2 a.m. or just break it down with like that. There's very few people far in between like that. I mean, it is like on one hand, and I don't want to start naming names, but I know like right off the top of my head, those people in my life that I would go to. And other people might sit there and say, well, why not me? Or why do you just consider me a friend of social media? It's like, dude, do we ever text? No, we don't even have each other's number. Like, it's just the truth. It's not, have we ever broke it down the way Vinicio and I have?
And not everybody's a bully like me and says, here's my phone number. If you're going to take a break, you have to still talk to me.
So, I
wasn't taking no for an answer.
It's few and far between, because I also have to have that trust that I could call you out and you can call me out. And I think I have that with Joe. I have that with Vinicio. I have that with Nikki. I have that with Tony. I feel like I have that with Johnny and stuff. It's few people though, but you have to have that. Like, I want you to know that I trust you enough that if I'm doing something, I want you to call me out. Nikki does that. Joe does that. He has no problem doing that. And hey, I love tough love. I think it's important. I think you need to have it. Don't get me wrong. I think those softer friends that are going to be like mush are good. You need that. But for me, everybody's different, right? I handle feedback with constructive criticism and tough love better than I would like it's okay pampering. I don't like that. That's not who I am. I need more tough love. Everybody's different though.
I need like a combination.
Yeah, I hear you. At times you need that. Like, it's okay. But, you know, I've always noticed though, like sometimes that combination is nice, but eventually, if I'm going through something, eventually I need that tough person who's going to be like, all right, enough is enough. Like when my ex and I broke up back in 2020, I was like, woe is me, all that bullshit. And then it was a friend like a week later, man, you need people like this older guy. He just called me out. He's like, okay, I've enough of I let you sulk long enough. He's like, you need to start moving on. You have to get on with your life. And it was only a week. And I know some people would say, oh, that's tough, whatever. But like, he said the right things that I needed to hear. He said, what were you insecure about? And man, that struck a chord because I was like, I'm not insecure. And man, he broke it down. But what made him different versus other people is he broke down why I was insecure and then was willing to talk to me about it and work it out. See, some people will call you out and then leave it at that. But there's a difference between the friends who are going to call you out and then go through the mud with you and help you work through it and be like, okay, so this is what's wrong. Like, this is why you're anger and lashing out. Now they're going to help you work through it and help you go through it. Those are the ones that separate you from being a friend and like a brother or a family or something like that. The ones who are going to go through the mud with you and help you go through shit and help you figure it out. Man, those are
and then to actually give you good advice, you know, and actually care genuinely about the situation. It's very rare, you know. Mm-hmm. I have my tattoo boy, and then now I have my lady, you know, and it's like to actually give good advice and really try to understand the thing, what would be the best thing as advice for somebody to do, you know, because it is different for everybody, you know. It's like for somebody it could be that, you know, to just suck it up and move on. That would be the best advice for them. Other person, the best advice probably for them might be you need to go to some therapy or something like that. So, you know, it's good when people kind of know that good advice to kind of tell you. So,
yeah, and a lot of people will say, here's what you're doing wrong, but they won't give you that advice like you said. He was like, okay, we're going to make a plan and you're going to plan your work and then you're going to work your plan. And I love that quote that he gave me, work, because I think there's a difference between just planning your work. You need to work your plan it and work it. And he was like, hey, I'll work through what you were insecure about. And it hurt. Like, it almost broke me down to be like, I wasn't insecure. And he was like, yeah, you were. And I was like, no, I wasn't. And we'll do insecurities one week, and man, that's going to be a tough one for me. Like, I'm going to get real, honest about that stuff because some of I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Insecurities was never something that anybody ever said to me or thought about. So it was just like, I'm getting off topic and I'm sorry, but yeah, it's important to have the friends who are going to call you out, who are going to be there. And I think with depression, you need friends who are going to help you like manage it, maneuver it and go through it, but also be honest with you about it, but also be loving. And there's a combination of that. And I think that's why
that's called real friends. That's called support.
Yeah. And that's why I push so many people. I have such a small group and I've shut so many people kind of to keep them at a distance. And I have this group and a few others because it's the group I want, because it's the group I trust that I can be open with and that I know is going to call me out. And I know when they do, like a Tony, for example, I know it's from a place of love. Like, he cares. Tony would never say something to actually hurt me, and I know that with Vinicio and Nikki or Joe or anything like that. And sometimes it's hard to hear stuff. Don't get me wrong. You don't want to hear everything, right? I didn't want somebody to tell me I was insecure, but sometimes you need it. And when it comes from a person like Vinicio, it's coming from a place of love. They care. It's not coming from anger or resentment or anything like that. They're saying it because there's truth to it.
Absolutely.
All right.
I agree. You said it better.
Let's see here. Yo, Bob, you should consider discussing Daddy-O. I'd love to do Daddy-O. If we could discuss one of those, Nikki, that would be a good one. I don't agree with
Yeah,
every
great movie.
in there, but great movie. I don't really want to talk about it, man. I respect that, man. Hope you're good, though. That's how our conversation went. I understand that completely, Bob. I feel you, Joe. I feel you. Bob, you never talked shit about me. That's your ultimate respects towards me. Prince, there's no need for it. Bob doesn't want to be pampered, huh? Okay, fucking gloves are coming off now, Bob. Joe knows. Johnny knows that. All right, let's see another. You know, and I was gonna have Johnny on here tonight. I asked him, but he'd get in trouble because he streams from his room with April now because they moved, and so now he streams with April, and so I can't keep Johnny up that late because April gets up in the morning, and Johnny will get spanked if I do keep him up too late. So we don't want to get Johnny in trouble, but I'll get Johnny on. And speaking of, to anybody that's in the chat, whether it's Anthony or Ellie or Johnny or whoever right now, Prince, Adam, everybody that's tuned in. I would want to have guests, Jeff. There's been other people in the chat as well. I do think 6 boxes fills the screen nice. We could always try to have 6 guests and see how that goes. We're keeping up pretty well tonight, going a little long, I feel like. But, if you want to be a guest on a channel or you feel like there's a topic that suits you or you really feel like, hey, I really need to talk about this and I'd love to be on, let me know. You could say it in the chat or DM any one of us or anything like that. We'd love to have you on as a guest if we can make it work. All right. Let's see here. 4 more questions.
I'd love to bring my lady on sometime.
Yeah, heck yeah, man. I'd love to get Ellie and Anthony on, talk about relationships or something like that, and there's so many topics. You could always keep it going for so long. You could, and if it works out, people like it and we enjoy doing it, I'll keep going, all right. How have you, now some of these questions relate to others, but I tried to spin them in different ways. How have you handled talking about or telling those around you about your struggles?
It's kind of something for me that I've, like I said, I've expressed to some people when I've been vulnerable, and it's always either something that's been used against me in the long run or something that people just don't understand. So that's what's kind of made me more reserved and less trusting of people and stuff like that. So unfortunately, that's kind of how it's a lot of it's been. And then my family, like I said, a lot of my family, they're just too tough to think about feelings. So I don't know. So not a lot of people to be able to discuss those kind of things with. That's why I have that small circle, though.
Yeah.
Joe, you seemed like you were.
I was gonna say, for me, I can't. I still can't talk about a lot of the stuff that I deal with. It's just I'm a keep it to myself kind of person. Keep my cards to my chest. It's tough, like I said, I've always been very independent. That I try to deal with my own issues. Sometimes, I'm just starting to feel better just about talking about different things, but even to this day, it's still tough.
Nikki?
When I'm struggling, I usually just get angry and I do a lot of snipping off at people. And so then I have to, like my husband's super good at being like, whoa, what's going on? What do you need to talk about? Because that's about the only time I really get it out fully. Like I'll talk to my kids about things and I'll tell them things. But I really have to be like in a bad place, struggling really hard before I'll break down on somebody. And yeah, because now I'll talk about any subject with any one person. Like I said, I'll even talk to strangers about just about anything, but usually not what I'm struggling with. So that's still, I have a hard time with that sometimes.
For me, I obviously talked about shutting people out, so I didn't handle it very well. I shut people out, just went through it on my own. I didn't talk to anybody really. Even when I spoke with Joe, sometimes we just needed friends in our, to keep in touch, but we didn't always break it down like that, and but I think it helped telling those around you about your struggles.
Well, Johnny said it perfect. He said that you don't. Sometimes it's hard to talk about your struggles with others because you don't want to either feel judged or see your weak in the eyes of someone else. Well, that's why
the
I have a
judgment.
really hard time, because like knowing how much since my husband's become disabled, knowing how much I'm dependent on when I'm carrying weight, and I know I just have to keep pushing forward. It's like I can't look at him knowing how much he relies on me. And you guys talked about that being a man's thing earlier, about carrying the weight of everything. Well, when the roles get reversed, it feels the same way to the woman, I promise. So that's one of the things, like, I don't want to burden somebody else with how I'm feeling about that, but sometimes the weight gets really heavy.
Yeah, the last thing I want to do is burn a bridge, and I don't see the comments. I don't have them popped up. I try to keep them off the screen until I want to go there. But I agree with that. I think it was a fear of being judged, but not only that, shame. Shame is a real thing. When you're struggling with that, you don't want other people to know, because it's like, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed that I'm struggling financially. I'm ashamed that this is where I'm at in my life, or that I'm struggling with something. And then the judgment of like, and then also being taught as a man, like, just hide it, suck it up. You got to just go through it. Nobody cares. And it's kind of how I thought, like, nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. Like, you just got to do it yourself and figure it out. So, but, that's, how it affected, I guess, or telling others about my struggles. I didn't, I shut out. I'll catch up with the chat here. Let's see. Let me get into this. Okay, we got, I don't know what that emoji is. I can't even see. Cheese?
It's cheese. It's a trap. You offered Jeff to come on. He says he's taking the bait.
Oh, okay.
Hey, good analyzation. Jeez.
Cheese, yeah, Nikki, what the heck? That's because it's
I know my child. I know my child.
I was like, what? I hide in the shadows, but will always be here to support. And that's true. He's always around. And we met up with him once. I'll come on, but only after the Cubs are knocked out. I ain't putting up with your singing that damn song. I texted him today, sing the song, Johnny. Sometimes it's hard to talk about your struggles with others because you don't want to either feel judged or seem weak in the eyes of someone else. Yeah, weakness, shame. I think for me, shame was a real thing. Absolutely. Shame of your position you're in. And also shame of being like 34 years old now. And I know let me say this. Everybody's situation's differently. I don't judge others who live at home at 39 years old. That's not what I'm doing, because everybody feels at a different place. For me at 34, like, I look back on my life, and see, I don't even like to talk about it sometimes, because I'm like, I feel like some people are going to be like, oh my gosh, get over it, or it's not that big of a deal, or you're not, so I don't talk about it. But I will now. Being 34, when I was younger, it's definitely not where I thought I'd be. And I know that's a lot of people, but I mean, I see my sister, she's got kids, family, husband, like career, everything like that. My other sister does well. And I think of myself, so speaking about shame, I look at things and I'm like, I know my mom and my dad are proud of my sister. And I'm like, I look at myself and I'm like, I'm ashamed. And I know I don't think of my parents being proud of me because I haven't given them a reason to be. And at 34, I'm like, I know I like have my own apartment and that's great and everything like that, but it's just not where I thought I'd be. And it eats away at me at times. And there's shame in that of like, wow, I'm here at 34. I never thought that would be the case. And there's shame for sure. But that's like the first time I've really opened up about that, because I feel like not only shame, but, judgment. I think, Johnny said it perfectly. It's like, but in also because I don't want other people who are in a position similar to me to be like, how dare him say it's not okay to live at home? That's not what I'm saying at all. It's just that I took a while to move out and I didn't want to be living at home at that time. And here's the difference is when I was 20 years old, I moved out and got my own place, and I was working, a job at 1-800 Got Junk, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But since I was 20 years old, I have gone backwards. Like I went and I lived at home, and then while I was at home, I should have saved money. And I remember a year ago or whatever, people were like, yeah, you must have saved a lot of money living at home. It's like, no, I didn't. I was doing paying fors for movies and putting my credit cards because I thought I needed every movie that came out, numbered spines. And so no, I didn't save money. I got into debt, a lot of it. I moved out, got my own apartment, and then started being late on credit card payments. And all of a sudden, my payment history was no longer 100%. So I'm not judging other people for their situation, but that's my situation. It's just how I feel, and I can't necessarily change that at the moment, but I'm working on changing that.
Same thing, Bob. I never thought I'd be in this position too, living in my uncle's house now at the age of 39 and all the other stuff that I don't want to get into, but about and stuff. It's just like, dang, man, who would ever thought I'd be this old and dealing with that kind of stuff like that and kind of having to reset life. But sometimes it's that reset that you need to go even better than before.
Yeah, it's never too late.
Mhm.
That's what I understand. It's never too late to change. And I think one of the next topics questions I'll talk about that on, but yeah, it's never too late to change, and if you're not happy with your circumstance, you can always change that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, similar to Benicio, it's like, I, because of me working hard and everything, I did a lot of stuff right when I was younger. That I bought my first house at 20 years old. It was rental property. I moved up. I bought multiple houses. I got married, the whole 9 yards. But when my ex-wife did drugs and I gave up everything, I literally went from, I did the old, I'm gonna go to the store. I'll be right back. Do you need anything? No, I'm all set. And 13 years later, I've never been back from the store. That I literally lived in my car for 3 weeks on sidewalks in hotel parking lots, because waiting for my next paycheck, because I literally left everything in the joint account to her and everything, and starting from scratch all over again. Going back and just filling up my pickup truck with my personal things, and starting from, having a huge house on 10 acres to living in a pickup truck and having to do it all again. And it's just like, sometimes, like I said, it's that 6 steps back and you lose it all and you have to do it again. But, you just got to persevere, and, you know, sometimes you got to reset and you just do it again. And it's tough, but if you put your mind to it and, you want something better for yourself, sometimes you just gotta, like I said, you just gotta try to find a way to do it. And it's, from experience, it's not easy. It's hard. It's very hard. And it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Sometimes a lot more tears than anything else. But,
And
if you're
never be
willing to,
ashamed of starting over.
if you
Never be
if
ashamed.
you if you're willing to do it, you know, it can be done. It's just, it comes down to how bad do you want it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it comes down to. When I did that, I sacrificed everything and gave up everything for a better life, and lived in my truck for 3 weeks, and cheap hooker hotels in Worcester, Massachusetts, with drug dealers all around me, staying in our pay by the hour hotels, because that's all I can afford. And I had to do everything I had to do to work my way back up to what I have now. And I don't take anything I've ever done for granted. Is it where I was before? No. Do I care that I don't have what I had before? No. I'm happy with what I have, and it's better regardless of what's around me. My mental state is better from what I had. And sometimes that's the best thing. You don't have to
Yeah.
have, looking at the people on Instagram and going, oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. You got to be okay with what you have, and know that has to be good enough.
Yeah, envy's a real thing for sure, especially people
Right.
posting, what you get in, and the jealousy of like, I want that or I need that because that person has it. Fear of missing out, things like that.
Yeah, but
I
it's
noticed when
just
I was
like
collecting
everybody's in
too.
a,
Right. Financially, everybody's a different place, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Vinicio. I know it's like 15 minutes before 3 hours.
Oh,
So
you're
are
good.
you
No,
guys
no.
doing okay so far, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I realized when I was collecting hella too, man, it was almost like filling a void because I was in a shitty relationship at that time, and I just got even more addicted to collecting because that's what made me happy instead of my relationship. So it's a kind of weird thing with that as well.
Yeah, I like deflecting or something like that. Yeah, I get that. You know. Okay, let me see here. Ragnar666 says, must be a generational thing. People are just soft today. We've always had mental health issues. We just didn't air it. I don't, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I mean, you know, I don't even like the word mental health because I don't want, like, to anybody, like, I'm not trying to, you know, this stream wasn't about woe is us or anything like that. It was just talking about real life stuff. So, and I think it's important to sometimes talk about it.
I don't like the term mental health. I think it's emotional health.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
when I think of depression, things like that, I'm not here to talk about mental health issues necessarily. We're here to talk about real life topics. Like Adam said, real people, real topics. Johnny said, look, we all have to go through hell to reach heaven.
Amen, brother.
Damn, Joe, I have so much respect for you. I'm glad I came tonight. I've loved hearing your story tonight. Yeah, and I mean, if we have 6 people on, I know, I hope the structure worked. I feel like, you know, talking about the movie and then going into the questions, did that work okay so far? Okay. All right, 3 more questions. I'll try and run through them pretty quickly. We might go over 3 hours. Is that okay, guys? First stream.
Go for it.
Okay. All right. Have you ever felt relieved by opening up about your struggles? I'll talk about it first really quick. I'll just try and run through it as, you know, as I'm trying to wrap this up as quick as possible. Yes, absolutely. Have I felt relieved? Absolutely. Recently, you know, when I finally did decide to, you know, talk to Vinicio, really was a big part of it. And then he was like, you know, what you need back in your life is God. You know, I used to go to church and pray and all that stuff. And then I stopped reading the Bible. And I do feel like, you know, that's something I need. But talking to Vinicio was something I needed. And then it helped me open up more about my issues. It was like a springboard. Like, is it Amy, your girlfriend? Yeah, Amy. It was like Amy said, you got to be pushed backwards to like spring forward. And so for me, it was like Vinicio was that springboard for me of like being pushed forward or whatever, you know, like it was a long conversation and it helped, you know, and I was very vulnerable and I was very honest about some of my struggles and what I was going through, something that I didn't open up with anybody else. So opening up with him kind of springboarded that into being able to open up with Joe and open up to Tony a little bit and be able to say, hey, I'm alive, I'm doing okay, I'm here. And actually it was Corey who I finally texted back. He had texted me something like, hey, I'm not going to reach out anymore. I just wanted to reach out one last time and see if you're okay. Something like that. After multiple attempts to get a hold of me and be ignoring him. I finally responded and said, yeah, I'm alive. I'm just struggling. And sometimes I would text people and just say, I'm okay. I'm okay. That's it. And, but I finally texted him back and I was like, yeah, I'm struggling. And he was like, I think he said something like, if not me, he might not have said that, but he said, you just need somebody to talk to. And that ended up being Vinicio. And then not only that, when I talked to Vinicio, I texted Nikki and I finally texted her one night and I was like, I'm not okay. And that was fucking hard for me to do, to text Nikki and say, I'm not okay. And it was really the same time I talked to Vinicio. So yeah, that for me, it helped a lot opening up about my struggles. Absolutely did.
Yeah, I actually had my first appointment with a psychiatrist. So talking them answering questions that I never expected, and then me answering those when in my past I wouldn't want to. It'd be something that I'd maybe get offended on or some shut down and kind of run away from. Having those and actually answering the questions and having things like that and going through the process of doing that for the first time in my life, talking to somebody like that, it actually was a huge weight off my shoulders that I never even realized it would be a huge weight off my shoulders. So, I mean, for that being the first time, you know, I feel like it's going to be beneficial for me for sure in the long run.
Yep. How about you, Nikki?
Joe,
go. Sorry.
I had a really bad breakdown on the husband today, actually. And, you know, when I told you about it on the phone earlier, Bob, you're like, good, that's what you needed. and I really did. Like, said some things I needed to say out loud, whether no matter who it was to, it needed to be said out loud because it was just something I've bottled up inside for a long, long time. And I'm about to go through some things that are going to be an extremely hard struggle for me. And I just had to be honest about where I'm starting that journey at with my husband. And I had not yet been up until that point today. So
Good. I'm glad. Like I said, I think it's so good. I think we need that. Vinicio has that with Amy. Joe, I know you said you don't talk to Marie or anything like that, but I think it's important. We have somebody. So it's good that you were vulnerable with your husband and open with him. Obviously, you need that communication. It's your freaking husband. So,
I'm vulnerable with him in a lot of things, but I usually try to just I won't say hide my feelings from him because I'm not real good at that. Like I said, I get pissy and I'm just mouthy, and that's when he really knows I'm having a hard time because I don't treat him bad. And I told you a few weeks ago I've been checking him every day, and it's like it's getting on my own nerves, and I got to stop doing it. So today was one of those times where I just had to tell him, I'm in a bad place, and this is where I'm going to be for a little bit, and you know, and this is why. And now he knows, and so, but it's just because I'm tough, and I don't want to be weak, and I don't want to have this stuff going on in my life, and so yeah.
Joe?
I would say for me, I'm still not good at opening up with people or talking about my issues. I usually am the type of person that I try to keep it to myself and try to deal with it. But I talk more about my issues now and the things that has happened to me or things that I have done for the sole purpose of if there's anybody out there that is going through what I went through that I can help. I'm been the type of person that I like to help people, and even with anybody, I try to give more to people than I give myself, even people that I don't really know. For some reason, I've always been a type of person that I've always wanted to help people out. Even when I was younger, and I didn't have kids, I used to do stuff with Shriners and March of Dimes and Easter seals and Toys for Tots because I wanted to help people. And again, I never wanted to have people go through what I went through. So if I can talk to people and help people out and just try to give them some type of direction to not go through it, it makes me, I feel better when I can help somebody than helping myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes I've always felt like I'm a lost cause and there's no fixing me. So if I can help people while I'm still around, it it's better for me. I don't know.
I
I'll
feel
be
it so
honest. I
much.
think
Yeah.
I think helping others helps yourself, though. I
Yeah,
think
and
Yeah.
that's why I said I feel better a lot of times when I help people over helping myself.
it's selfless, and I
Yeah.
can attest to Joe helping me in the past before. So,
That's just putting good karma in the bank, Joe.
okay.
Exactly.
All right, let me catch up with the chat here and then keep moving on here. It's always nice to hear from you guys. Also, Prince said that you look like Rob Zombie. I'm assuming he's talking to Joe. I agree with
He
that.
always says that.
Hey, Huckster, how are you, Huck? Miss your friend.
I was gonna say Rob Zombie lived 20 minutes from me. That's where he was born and raised.
Full horror for this month of October. Tusk is a watch.
Tusk is fun. Tusk is
Laugh a lot.
good.
I personally think it's good and recommend it, but just know it's a ride. It sure is. It's a ride, but like you said, I mean, it's wild. It's fun. I'm
I
watching.
like the movie a lot.
I don't like Tusk. It's going to be interesting to see Prince's opinions on it. All right, two more questions. Where or how do you find the drive or motivation to keep going when you're going through struggles? Joe, I know you already talked about. I figured your son.
Yeah, my son is my drive, and that's everything to me. I will do anything I can for my son. I will never let anything happen to my son. Like I said, you know, I don't care how it comes off to people because like I said, if anything ever happened to my son, I would be like Kevin Bacon in Death Sentence. It would be hellfire and brimstone around me because my kid comes first, and like I said, I would give up my life for my son, and so be it. It's just how I am. I've, I'm very. That's how I am. That's what keeps me going every single day is making sure I can give my son a better life than what I had, and
You already do, Joe.
that's all that matters to me.
You've
You
won
already
already,
do.
brother. You won.
For me, I don't have, I'll be honest with you. And I like the word drive over motivation because I think motivation is temporary. I think when you find a drive, it'll keep you going. And for me, when I was personal training, I had that drive. I had clients. I cared about making a difference. That's what mattered to me. Kind of like in the movie The Way Back, she says to him, or he says to him, don't be surprised by the impact you can make on the kids. And for me, it was always about making an impact. It kept me going, those clients. I would wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning if I had to. I don't have anything. So for me, I'm still trying to figure that out right now. I'm trying to figure out my why.
So for me, it used to be my kids, and now since my situation and everything like that, it's honestly God. God keeps me going now, because it's bigger than everything I have created. It's what He created, and my thing that keeps me going right now is trying to figure out fully what my purpose is, and then from what I think my purpose is, and that's just being a good person. And that's kind of what keeps me going is just trying to fulfill out God's purpose that He put me here for.
Great reason. Good answer. Nikki?
My drive or motivation to just keep being there for the people that I'm there for. That's always my drive. That's always, no matter what I struggle with, it doesn't matter. My husband, my brother, my kids, they pick up the phone, they need me. I just keep doing what I have to do so that they always have me.
Amen. Absolutely. Jeff, you hear that? All right. I'm going to move on to the chat. And then one last question. So we're right in that 3 hours. I know I talked about trying to keep it in 3 hours. So, first stream, I didn't know how it would go, but I guess we have an idea of it. I'm watching it later. Johnny Huck says, as a parent now, I completely understand what you mean, Joe. Yeah, she's got three triplets. Hey, Prince.
They're so beautiful.
Yep. Jess says, aren't we all finding our purpose in life, whether it's something long or short term? I think every day. That process of it, or pursuing it, or chasing it, or keeping it.
Yep.
I'll definitely hit mommy up for some heart talk down the line. The word mommy, though, Prince,
He's always called me that.
It's got to be mom. It sounds dirty, Prince. All right, Prince is gonna kick my ass. Okay, all right. Last question. What is one thing that you gained or learned about your struggle with depression? About from your struggle with depression. Last question.
For me, what I've learned or gained from my struggle with it, it's similar to like I said earlier. Things will get better. It just comes down to what are you willing to do and what are you willing to sacrifice to get to that place. Like I said, I gave up everything in my life, family, friends, everything that I built, and literally reset my whole life and lived in a vehicle and did it all over again to get out of the mental stress that I was in, and everything that was just going on. Is sometimes, you have to be willing to not care what anybody even thinks about you for going there, and not worrying about what other people think of you, because you're doing it for a better purpose, and you're doing it to better yourself. And sometimes people just are not going to understand that, but it's made it better because of those things. And like I said, I don't think if I've ever done a lot of the things that I've done, good or bad, in my life, I don't think I honestly would have made it this far. I think I would have hurt myself, or the years of me hurting other people, somebody would have freaking killed me by now. I would have messed with the wrong person.
Yeah. No, my dad. I mean, like I said, with the alcohol, my dad always said if you didn't quit drinking, you would be dead today. So I get that. Because I was angry, and I would have picked with the wrong person, just like you, Joe. Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just share really quick. So to piggyback on what Vinicio said on the last question, I think what I've realized and learned from my struggles this year in particular is that I need God back in my life, and I have to put Him first, and make room for it at least. And it's important to pray. It helps, and praying for people, praying for others, whether you believe in God or not. I'm not here to argue that or anything like that. I'm not here to force Christianity or religion. I don't even like the word religion. I hate the word religion. But for me, that's what I realized, is that Vinicio said that's his drive. And, I don't have running. And I think somebody even asked me once, like, do you think running is almost like you put that in front of God, or it's like an idol? And I've always wanted to learn to balance movies and running, like movies and competing back when I was running. And I'd love to learn how to have God in my life, but also enjoy movies and find a way to get back to running and all that stuff, and be able to find the balance in it, but also putting God first. That's what I realized through my depression, and really Vinicio helped me realize it, and talking to Tony also helps as well. And Nikki.
Well,
it's very true, man. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for praying for me, Bob, because the other day that made me feel really good, and I appreciated that you saw that I had the need for it.
Vinicio is another thing that he's a lot like me on. Back when I used to go to church, man, I'd walk up to guys I knew, not so much random people, but I'd just put my hand on their shoulder. Touchy-feely guy, whatever, and I'd just put my hand on their shoulder, and I'd start praying for them. And man, you sometimes have it happen where somebody would start tearing up right there on that spot and just be like, I didn't know I needed that. Or why did you come up to me out of all people in this church or something? And it's like, you never know the difference or the impact you can make. But I think it's important, and a lot like Vinicio is a lot like me. When somebody asks me to pray for them, or if I tell somebody I'll pray for you, like a Johnny and April, right? Johnny's dealt with a lot of struggles in the last 2 years, lost both of his parents. April, her dad's sick, things like that. They've lost a lot. And when I say I'll pray for you, I mean it, because I think a lot of people say I'll pray for you and they don't. So if I tell somebody I'll pray for you, and let's say I'm on the phone with them, or I'm in person with them, I'll pray for them on the spot, because I just think, hey, I'd rather do that than you ask me, did you actually pray for me? How many times do we say, like, did you actually pray for me? And the person will be like, maybe I didn't. I said thoughts and prayers, but I didn't. You know what I mean? So if you're going to say it, do it, I guess, is my philosophy. And I don't think, even if you're an atheist, or even if you don't believe in God, I don't think prayer hurts. So if somebody says, hey, can I pray for you? I don't think that hurts.
Right. What have I gained or learned from my struggle with depression? I've learned to feel it coming on sooner, and who I can show it to and who I can't. That's what I've learned from it.
It's good.
I
When to
gained
let it
God.
out and when to not.
You gain God?
I gained God through it, you know, and it's funny because he's been poking at me my entire life because I've dealt with depression, and I was just felt like it was too much of a weakness to submit to him and, you know, try to do all I can to follow that lifestyle. And, you know, it's like once I did, my life and outlook on life and the people that accepted my life has completely changed. Another thing that it has I've gained from it is knowledge. And again, my one of my purposes, kind of like how Joe says he likes to help people. I feel like that's one of my purposes here on earth is to help people. So now that sometimes I have so much knowledge about things that I have trouble with using myself in my own problems, but I know that that's the right solution. So it's like it's easy to give people advice to help their situation, but it's harder to take your own advice sometimes. So I feel like that, you know, the knowledge and gaining God, because I would have never been able to have him in my life and put him actual first for once without that.
Yeah. I mean, when I called Vinicio and we talked, it's funny because I posted, I was selling my collection. A lot of people reached out, and Vinicio reached out that day. And the funny thing is, I wanted to call him. And then when he DM'd me, I called him like 2 seconds later. I was like, oh, as a reminder, I wanted to call you. I forgot. So I called him, he answered. And it was later on, it was in the middle of that conversation, not even in the middle, it was pretty early on. And Vinicio says, I know you might not want to hear this, man, but this is God calling you back. And I was like, no, I don't mind hearing that. I was like, I'm not like other people that hate that answer or something like that, don't want to hear it. I was like, and I agreed, because it wasn't just him who said it. I've actually felt that. Like, it's been so long since I've gone to church, and even having conversations with Tony, like you said, the poking. It's like, I think there was a lot of poking and prodding there, putting Tony in my life, things like that, for the conversations like that. And Tony doesn't talk a lot about that, so he might not want me talking about it now. But, you know, Tony meant a lot, is my point, in my life, and a lot of other people did. So Huck says, Joe, as a dad, I would totally agree with you. It's all about giving my daughter a better life than I had, and I had a pretty good one. Prince says, things will find its calmness side. Every blur in your life will turn around and be the brightest results in your life that you envisioned. Life is beautiful when you look into the road ahead. Faith matters most, as a Catholic myself. Prince says, and I grew up as a Catholic. Bad question. What's the toughest course you've encountered Ninja Warrior wise? Well, I'd never ran a Ninja Warrior race. It was all obstacles. Frontline, I'll say. Change takes time. Life is hard. Sometimes struggles are daily, whether it's a vice or depression or being alone. The truth will hurt, but people always need someone to vent to. I do agree with that. I do agree.
Absolutely.
Someone, like she said, someone. And Corey said that. I don't care, but you need someone to talk to. This was hard, but thanks for the chat tonight. And Bob, you bet your ass I will love Sinners Count on it. You know me. I always give 4 to 5 stars. You do. That reminds me, I'll watch The Last Rodeo later, at least if I don't get hit with the burnout. Yeah, watch Burnout. That's everything, though. But for everybody that's still in the chat, and I'll ask the panel really quick. Well, for one, how did the structure line up? Like, talking about the movie and then running into the questions. Was that an all right structure moving forward?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. All right. You know, we're a little over 3 hours. Hopefully we keep that around there. We wanted to talk. So the next topic we're going to discuss will be the movie Fall, and the topic will be fear. So we're going to be talking about fear in the movie Fall, which came out in like 2023 or 2022, 2023 maybe. And then I think we're gonna stick with Tuesdays. Did you guys want to do the 21st or the 28th? What works better for
28th.
28th. So we're gonna stick with the 28th, which is about a month from now.
Yeah, I would say keep it at a month.
Yeah. Just as the structure needs more efficiency, needs more streaming efficiency. Yeah.
What year's that movie?
I think it's 2022. Prince says so. Probably 2022 then. I guess. I don't know. I thought it was a little earlier recently, but great stream. Did dig the structure. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out for sure. You know, the different structure, how to do it. Because if we want to have guests on, I don't want to keep us on all night, so we'll have to figure that out. I'm glad I really enjoyed doing this. I think it was really beneficial to me. I think it was good. I enjoyed it a lot. I had fun. I really liked the panel. I love you guys, and thanks for being here. So it worked out really well for me. I appreciate the chat who was tuned in and watched and listened and commented and all that stuff. Some people are here, don't always comment. So it's fun to be back to streaming and keeping things positive as possible. That's the new motto here. So it was fun. It was fun. And maybe I'll get back to posting content eventually at some point, and maybe other live streams. Who knows? But I don't know for right now. This is what I'm sticking with. I don't want to overwhelm myself or burn out like Prince said. But that's everything. Joe, did you want to talk about your channel or anything? Anything about the stream or
The only thing I like to say is thanks to everybody on the panel. I liked all the conversations, listening to everybody's story. And I just want to say thanks to everybody in the chat for sticking around and, putting your comments in and everything. It was nice to read it since I had my laptop right here and I was watching what everybody said. So I just appreciate it. Like I said, I like hearing people's stories, and hopefully anything that I said, if it helps anybody, I'm happy if you could take anything from it.
Yeah, and with the structure and everything, you never know where the streams are going to go, or how it's going to go. But the biggest thing is I hope that we can make a difference, and whether that's sparking a conversation or a difference in somebody in the chat's life or a difference in our lives or anything, just hopefully progression, like Nikki said, even growth. That's the idea here. So I wanted to do something different, still related to movies, but talk about something important. So let's see here. Great discussion, Anthony says. Prince says good night, guys. Capri says Joe, Vinicio, and Nikki loved your stories, but not Bob. Good stream, guys.
She said, "Go to hell, Bob."
Great, yeah, exactly. Great stream, Bob. Great panel. See, Johnny's got my back. Great stream, Bob. Great panel. You are awesome, and I'm privileged to know you all. The privilege thing.
Love you, Johnny.
Johnny, the privilege thing. If you remember from Tennessee. Remember, he's like, you privileged. Oh gosh, Johnny, good old Johnny. Yep, I'm grateful for people like Johnny and April in my life as well. Great stream. All right, Vinicio, how about you, man? What's if you wanted to say anything really quick before we get out of here?
I think it was a great stream. To be honest, I think that this is like progressive for all of us, not just us on the panel, but like you said, everybody in the chat and everything like that. I feel a lot closer to you guys now too. Me and you, Bob, we've always been close, but Joe, it was really awesome hearing your life and everything like that, man. I actually relate to you so much more. We need to have conversations on the flip flop, man. And then Nikki, you've always been such a good supporter with me, and it's really cool to get to know you even more. Awesome in this panel and stuff like that. And as we progress, it's really, really neat. I'm really enjoying this. So, and I appreciate everybody that's been in the chat. Babe, if you're still in there, I appreciate you also. It's just really cool. I hope we could help some people with this.
Yeah, and I love the support from the girlfriend. That's awesome, man. I'm glad she was here, and I'm glad you found her, man. I think it's important. Prince says sick beard, Vinny. I agree. I actually called him one day to talk to him about his beard. I was like, bro, that line is perfect. I was like, so we literally had like a 28-minute conversation about his beard. I called him just to talk about that. Anyways, entitled, Bob. It was entitled, not privileged. Yeah, that's my bad. Nikki, go ahead and anything you got.
When Bob first started talking to me about this, I didn't know what it would turn into. I hope they all turn out to be like tonight. I was very comfortable with you guys. I love, watching you guys through the social medias and stuff, but it's something different to sit down with you. So I appreciate it, and thank you. Love you guys.
Yeah, and I hope, like I said, we could have guests on. 6 boxes fills the screen, but whether it's 5 or 6 or whatever, I'd love to have guests on and see how that goes. If we can stay on topic and keep it within 3 hours, because you had 2 more people. So, I want to keep up with the chat and everything, but I want to keep it within. I don't want to keep my guests here too long. So, that's a big thing. I don't want to drag it out. But that's everything. Yeah, like I said, we'll be discussing fear. We figured. I don't know if that follows a horror movie, but fear would be a good conversation.
Pretty horrifying.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's pretty horrifying for me.
Yeah. Look at that.
Me too, bro. Me too.
She says, "Proud of you, babe." So she got 2 accounts. She's running both accounts.
Look at that, dude. Tell me, man.
Yeah.
I swear. Ever since I followed God, man, I'm telling you, God sent me that woman right there, and I couldn't be happier. So.
Heck yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Puts a smile on my face. I love to see that. I love the success stories. That's everything though. But October 28th, that'll be the next time we're live. Same time, 9 Eastern. It's a Tuesday night. It's the last Tuesday in October, Halloween week. And we'll be discussing fall. I look forward to that because, yeah, that movie's terrifying. So it'll be a good conversation. We'll mix up, we'll see how the structure goes and everything like that, and we'll figure it out. But that's everything. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. But thanks again, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. It meant a lot. And we'll see everyone on the next one. Have a good one.
Good night.
Have a good one.
Thank you.